Okay, I'd like to call the Town of Rochester Town Board April business meeting to order. If you could all stand for the pledge of the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Do the roll call.
Councilman Alva is absent. Councilman Coleman.
Here.
Councilman Smeeseth.
See here, sorry.
Councilman Nguyen.
Here.
Supervisor Nauer.
Here. So our first item on the agenda is the acceptance of the agenda with amendments. Does anyone else have amendments besides me? Okay, so we're tabling the Spectrum renewal. We haven't heard back from them. And then I have at the end, we're adding a couple of discussion items. We're also adding the execution of the Ulster County Youth Bureau contract. We're adding the amendment to the speed track race dates. And we're adding a resolution for restoration of leave time. So I'll make that motion. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed, abstained, motion carries. So for the next couple of items, I'm recusing myself, so I'm going to step away. And Deputy Supervisor Coleman will take over chairing the meeting. And also we're experiencing technical difficulties. I'm going to take this opportunity to fix the camera.
You want me to wait till you're done with that? Or?
No, it's fine.
Okay, I'm gonna adjourn. Yeah, sorry. Fine. Do I have to make a motion in the public hearing?
No, the meeting is open.
Okay.
At this time, you can say the public hearing, what it's specifically for, and that's what comment is for.
Okay.
Any other comment will be at the business.
Okay, so welcome everyone. I'm sure people are here specifically for this public hearing or for the regular meeting, but we're going to start with a public hearing today on local law 5 of 2025. For those of you who are not aware of what the proposed local law 5 of 2025 is, New York State actually provides boards with the ability to propose a change to the terms for elected officials. In this case, the proposal is to change the term from a 2-year term for the supervisor to a 4-year term. This is something that we've done in the past for our clerk position. So our clerk position is currently a 4-year term. Board member terms are also 4-year terms, and they alternate. There are 2 board members up during each cycle. This is also something that has been proposed and passed in several towns in Ulster County. So I know Marbletown has done this, Rosendale has done this, and I wasn't able to confirm if Hurley has done it as well. So for people in attendance and people that are watching, this initial law is one step in the process of making that change. So the board is essentially able to put forward a local law to then submit this change to mandatory public referendum. So no decision that this board would make would actually change the term. We would be making a decision to submit that to mandatory referendum, and then it goes on the ballot at the next election. And so everyone would weigh in, and if it doesn't pass in that election, then it doesn't pass and the term stays at a 2-year term. So with that, I just want to clarify in terms of the rules and the expectations for public hearing. So this isn't a back and forth, it's not a Q&A. This is essentially a time for members of the public who have looked at the laws to come forward and kind of give their perspective on it, weigh in and talk to the board members about specific things, concerns they have, or in support of the local law. If you do have questions, I know all of the board members are accessible We don't have to make any decisions tonight. We can vote to keep the public hearing open if we need to, if we feel like we need to receive more feedback. But with that, I will open up the public hearing. Do we have a sign up sheet?
Yes, but no one signed up.
Okay. So I will open the public hearing, and is there anybody, I guess by show of hands, anyone in the room that wants to comment on the local law? Proposed local law? Okay. Is anyone online?
Blaine Benson, do you want to make a public comment? If you do, you can unmute yourself now. Oh, good, all right. And that, I can close that. I can close.
You can vote.
I make a motion to close the public hearing for local law 5 of 2025.
Second that. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Abstain?
I guess for the record.
Yes, she is passed.
Okay, so I guess for the next piece of this, I would like to make a resolution that the Town of Rochester Town Board has determined that local law 5 of 2025 extension of the term for town supervisor will not have a significant adverse impact on the environment. It should be classified as a type 2 action under the following 6 NYCRR Part 617 criteria, 617.5 C26, routine or continuing agency administration and management, not including new programs or major reordering of priorities that may affect the environment codes. No further seeker review is required. All in favor? Aye.
Aye. Second.
Oh, sorry. I was making it to you.
Okay.
Right, Kate?
Yes.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Abstain? Motion passes. I guess, what does the board want to do? We can vote on it and actually adopt the law, and that would start the process of getting it to us.
I move that we adopt the law.
Second.
Kate, do we need to do like,
So this will now become local law 4 of 2025. We have not had the public hearing yet on local law 4.
okay,
So what I would suggest is to amend that last resolution. Make a proposal to amend proposed local law 5.
okay, so
You-
let me,
yeah.
let me see if I can do it.
Okay.
I'd like to make a motion to amend local law 5 of 2025 to local law 4 of 2025 entitled extension of the term for town supervisor, which was presented to the town board of the town of Rochester at a workshop meeting held on March 27th, 2025.
Second, the amendment.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Abstain. I think I probably muddled this, but do I need to do, should I do a
Yeah, we-
resolution to actually authorize you or request you to submit?
To the state?
Yeah.
Yeah, once you pass, adopt the local law, I'm automatically required to pass.
But did we just do that, or did we just rename it?
Now you just rename this and
Okay.
I have it done.
All right, so let's do the end. Like to make a resolution, whereas local law, proposed local law 4 of 2025 entitled extension of the term for town supervisor was presented to the town board of the town of Rochester at a workshop meeting held on March 27th, 2025. And whereas the resolution was duly adopted by the town board of the town of Rochester on March 27th, 2025, setting a public hearing to be held by said town board on April 10th, 2025 to hear all interested parties on said proposed local law. And whereas pursuant to the State Environmental Quality Review Act, seeker town board has determined that adoption of local law 4 is a type 2 action And whereas the town board of the town of Rochester, after due deliberation, finds it is in the best interest of the town to adopt said proposed local law in the form attached here too. Now therefore be it resolved by the town board of the town of Rochester as follows. Hereby adopts said local law 4 of 2025 in the form attached here too and made a part of this resolution. And 2, request the town clerk to enter said local law in the minutes of the meeting to give due notice of the adoption of said local law to the Secretary of the State of New York and take all other actions as may be required by law.
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Abstain. All right. Can I relinquish the chair?
We can start the,
So relinquish, do I have to get Aaron? Oh, shit.
probably the grabber.
Oh. I don't know if he can see you. I'm sure it's like that.
Insurance?
Oh, yeah, can I run out?
Sure.
You can mark camera.
That's what Aaron's trying to pull. You know.
Perfect.
Black. Great. Oh my gosh. So. We're moving on to the next agenda item. Which is the interview for the Board of Assessment Review with Julie. Julie, do you want to come join us at the table? You're welcome to take this empty seat. You're good. Thanks for joining us, Julie. We recently adopted a appointment policy that for public bodies, so those are the official boards that are considered public bodies. We are conducting interviews for appointments for those at public meetings. So that's why we're doing this. The board had started doing those in executive session for a few years, and we decided that for things like the planning board, zoning board of appeals, board of assessment review, since those are public, we thought it was appropriate to do that. So thank you for joining us. We know it's a lot. We just thought it would be good to do a quick interview. We have all met you. You are on one of our advisory boards, so we're familiar with you. But if you could just give us a little bit of background that you feel comfortable sharing in public about yourself and what made you put yourself forward for this vacancy.
Sure. So, my name is Julie Goldstein. I've lived up here for 28 years, 27 years in Cohasset. And, the reason I put my name forward, a neighbor is on the committee, on the, board, and I've heard about her work and I heard about the opening. And I really just want to contribute in whatever ways I can to the essential services of the town. So, I think equity is important. I think fair hearings are important. I'm a lawyer by training. And I'm pretty organized, so it felt like I could hopefully contribute to the community.
And thank you for that. And in terms of the operations of the board itself, there is a training that happens at the beginning of May that is required. We had talked about that already. You said that you were holding the date for that. Can you speak a little bit to what you feel you might bring to that type of board? You might not have seen the makeup of the board itself, but just in terms of operationally what the board does and the role that it plays.
Yeah. So I've done a fair amount of administrative work and organizational work. For a time, I've been a law professor for many years, and for a time I was an academic dean, so I was an administrator. In that capacity, you hear a lot of issues, concerns raised by a variety of constituencies, and I think I have good skills at hearing people out, listening, and applying standards in a fair and consistent way. I guess consistency is the thing I would emphasize, and that's something that's really important to me. And I think for the Board of Assessment Review, especially in these times when real estate values are changing and a lot of things are changing in our community, I think fairness and consistency is really important. Those are two values I hold dear and think in a variety of contexts.
Louder, please.
Sure. I think from, in a variety of contexts, from different work experiences I've had to other volunteer work I've done, I think, I'm good at applying standards in a consistent way to, people with sometimes differing views.
Great, thank you. Do any other board members have any questions for Julie?
I was on the board for 10 years
Okay.
and I'm sure you'll do really very well.
I just want to confirm, you said you lived in town for 28 years in
Let me
Kerhonkson.
just, if you're
Okay.
taking notes, I just want to do the math in my head. 27,
Okay. You're registered to vote in town
I am,
and your license is for your residence here?
yes,
Wonderful.
my license for my residence.
For is registered to hear your licenses.
My driver's
Yeah,
license.
your driver's
Yeah,
license.
yes.
Thank you.
I don't have any additional questions.
Do you have any questions for us, Julie?
I don't think so, maybe other than just what your process is.
Well, given that we have interviewed you previously and appointed you to another board, I was planning on nominating you for appointment tonight, so. But typically, if we were to have, we didn't have any other applicants, and we have 2 vacancies on the board, so it is a priority to get this appointment done, because we stand the risk of not having a quorum potentially for a very specific one-time day for grievance day. So the Board of Assessment Review is their day of hearing is grievance day, which is May 27th. So we feel like it's very important to get this appointment so that the training can happen and the prep work can happen ahead of that. So, yeah. Great. Okay.
Thank you all for the time. Thanks.
Yeah, the other side of what I was saying, there's sometimes we have multiple applicants, in which case we would deliberate, we would probably wait another meeting before we made appointments, but it's case by case sometimes for that. So moving on, we have, the way our business meeting works is we have a bunch of reports that we do ahead at the very start of the meeting. Some of them are required reports, some of them are just hearing from all of our departments and boards and commissions. And then after we do that, we have the public comment period in the meeting. And then we have our resolution period. So we have a lot of people here tonight, and I just wanted to make sure that the way we're organizing things is really clear. So the financial report for March, I have included one printout because I know you guys don't like too much paper. I am submitting it with the town clerk right now. But if anyone wants to look at the March numbers right now, I have the detail. I also shared this. This is the financial detail for March. It's in the public drive also. And it's also available to the town board members as a digital copy. But the summary is revenue generated for general fund was $209,557.35. Highway fund was $7,041.31. Expenditures for the month, general fund, $207,390.63. Highway fund, $114,688.06. Capital fund had 0 expenditures. Street lighting fund, $326.91, and ambulance fund had 0 expenditures.
I have a question on the general fund revenue. How much of that was fee-based? If you have a breakdown between fee-based and tax collected?
So that's 0 taxes, town taxes. That would be about 25% of it is what the clerk collects. And then we had some state I'm looking at the highway one. We had some there was a big item in there. So it changes from, oh, you have it. Anyway, there were some other government tax revenue in. We had a lease payment that came in. And then, yeah, the county tax payment came in. So that was actually the biggest chunk there.
Thank you.
So any other questions? So for the supervisor's report, I'm gonna open up my computer so I can see my notes. I received some interesting correspondence that I wanted to draw attention to the town board. One item is I've been doing a little bit of a dive into the way fee structures should work for boards and commissions, but namely the planning board, because they collect a lot of fees and do professional services and set escrow. So I'm starting to do a monthly escrow report for the board, and that also goes to the planning board so they can see that. So I put that in the file, and I have reached out to the Association of Towns to get information on how we should be doing that. And it's been a few weeks, but they got back to me today with like 25 attachments. So I just downloaded that folder and put it in the correspondence for the board. There's some really interesting information in there, and I think it should be something that we like keep an eye on and look at for like how we want those things to be administered. So that was one item. Another correspondence, one thing, Zolly, I was hoping you would maybe take a look at, every year, American Tower sends us a proposal for a lease buyout, and every year we
Turn it down.
turn it down. Yeah, so I put that in there. So we, also had last year, we had decided to contract with Michael Gage to do a ecological study of one of our vacant parcels. We scheduled that for this spring. There's a correspondence in there scheduling that, if anyone is interested in joining, we could have one other board member join me for that after he does the actual survey. I received the first quarter reports from Cohonson Accord First Aid Squad. So that's part of our contract. They send us call reports, financial reports, response reports. And that is tied to our quarterly payment. So that has been sent to the advisory committee. They will review, issue comment, and the target is that payment will be in the second set of vouchers for this month. So you'll see that at the end of the month, that payment for around $48,000. We have the same arrangement with Marbletown. I just haven't received those quarterly reports yet. Another follow-up item is that Ulster County EMS funding resolution. I haven't gotten an update, but they continue to change that. So I put in the updated draft resolution that I think is on their agenda for next week. But this is a very different resolution from what we looked at our last meeting where we voted on this. It was a month ago. We voted to support it, where they really changed the funding model to really focus on agencies that are providing ALS. And the idea would be that funding would allow those agencies to expand and cover all the advanced life support needs in the county. And so that chunk that was of $260,000 that was allocated to the town of Rochester, in this version is taken off the table. So just wanted to call your attention to that.
Who supplies our ALS services now?
The agencies, it's up to the agencies, so it kind of depends on who's responding to the call and how they're able to get the person transported. Michael, do you have a more in-depth?
No, that's my understanding, so.
Okay.
KFAS and Marbletown First Aid Unit do not provide,
Marbletown provides some, I thought,
do they?
but yeah. But it's not, we don't have guaranteed advanced life support coverage in our town. But there is like mutual aid coverage for that, so.
There's proposals to expand ALS coverage for the squad.
It is a high priority item for figuring out whether it's us trying to support the county supporting or the squads doing that and then finding the funding for that. Then I also just wanted to take a moment to call attention to a document that I made, and I actually made these available tonight for the public, and they're in the drive. We have a public Google Drive that has backup materials that we'll be adopting at the meeting in it. I know we'd heard a lot of people asking my office and in the community about the board's discussion of considering a noise ordinance in town. And I just wanted we made a goals and objectives one pager, because I know I said at the last meeting where we spoke about this, that I personally don't like noise ordinances. It's not a legislation that I am blanket supportive of, but we also recognize that the amplified music over the summer that happens, past a certain hour, is something that we received that just we've received a lot of input about that. So what we're considering, and we will be talking about at length at our workshop meeting at the end of the month, is potentially something that would apply to commercial businesses that have amplified sound that's coming out of speakers outdoors, and putting a time limit on that. So that is the scope of what we're considering. At our last meeting where we spoke about this, we were very clear. I felt like as a board, we do not want this to apply to lawnmowers or chainsaws or residential uses or even certain loud things. We also discussed that some uses have approvals that are going to predate this. Uses like the racetrack, which has its own standalone law and its own, decibel limits for that use. we discussed that we wanted it to be really clear that this wouldn't, apply to those types of things. We're really looking at the commercial use of having, amplified music outside, after a certain time period. So I just wanted to call attention to that. It's that we are at the very beginning stages of this. So we are working on a very rough draft that we will be, we're all, here open to feedback about this. So, but I just wanted to stress that we're just at the very beginning of considering this. And this document really kind of explains the history and what our thinking is currently. Next up, we've got the town clerk tax collector report.
For the month of March, $54,042.04 was collected. We did receive a resignation from Jasmine Wilhelm from the planning board and ZBA secretary. A liquor license has been filed for Starlight Motel. As far as tax collection, to date, $7,316,206 has been collected as the base. An additional $11,934 in penalty has been collected. There is a balance of $1.8 million left to collect, and that is for 454 parcels. The end of this month, unpaid notices will go out for anybody who hasn't paid their taxes as of now, and we do collect till June 1st. That's all I have to.
Great, thank you, Kate. I have a highway report. So this is the March highway report during spring break week. Or I guess it's not March, it's their monthly report. So during spring break week, which is April 14th through April 18th, they will be closing 2 roads for culvert replacements from 7 a.m. to 2 p.m. during that week. That'll be Bakertown Road and the intersection of Doug Road on April 14th and Old Kings Highway, April 16th and April 17th. So that'll be between the hours of 7 a.m. and 2 p.m. Highway trucks will be taking off their winter gear and making sure we are all set for paving and chip sealing season. Sweeper rental was picked up and has been out cleaning our roads. You probably have seen it. The roads look really amazing after that sweeper goes through. Highway is gathering information to put the bid out for the Queens Highway box culvert installation. So we have the culvert. It's at 50 Scenic Road. It's a giant, huge culvert. But we are going to bid out the labor for that culvert. And I'm working with the highway department to put that bid together. That'll be coming up very soon on one of our agendas. The 284 agreement is finishing up last minute touches and should be ready by the end of May. Just waiting for the state on the state budget for CHIPS. So the 284 agreement is what sets the schedule, and that's what we use the CHIPS funding for the paving schedule. The highway crew are ditching and cleaning out culverts in the coming weeks. Residents, please drive with caution. So that is the monthly highway report. Moving on to department reports. I can report we did have a good meeting with the code enforcement officer. There was a lot of questions that came up. From that, I have been following up on a lot of that with the department. I did get some clarification. The monthly log that they are submitting to the Board of Complaints is also a violation log, so they have that marked in that spreadsheet to indicate whether it's a violation that is something that they noticed or if it's a complaint that they then investigate to see whether or not it is a violation. And that also shows where it's escalated to. So if it says that there's been a summons issues, it means that it's a fine that they are putting to the court. So we'll be able to see the percentage of those over the course of the year that are that would be a fine that would go before the court. On that note, the code enforcement office used to issue summons for fines, and I don't know at what point that practice stopped, but they have requested that they have those forms issued again. Our town code authorizes the code enforcement officer and the building inspector to issue the appearance tickets. So I have designed my second ticket since being the town supervisor. And we have those at the printer right now. So the code enforcement office should be able to take that back over for the most part. We also have authorized our constables to
So it
issue
had been
those.
done with the constables.
That's who's currently doing that.
Exclusively.
Using what tickets?
Appearance tickets, the general ones though, they use them for, theirs is for everything. These are just for uniform code and our town code. We have an update on the agenda. We've been working with the recreation department on doing the improvements to the yard area here, so those items are on the agenda. And we do have the temporary clerk or the temporary secretary that we appointed to the planning and zoning office has started. And right now, the hours of the planning and zoning office are Monday through Wednesday, 8 to 4 with the break at lunch. So I've posted those hours online, but we should be aware that it was 5 days a week, but right now we're currently operating on 3. I have the constabulary report. So the calls for the constabulary included 14 neighbor to neighbor and quality of life complaints, 3 resident traffic complaints, 2 environmental complaints, 0 new building department violations, 0 new court cases, 9 court cases remain open, and 0 have been closed. March was busy. The town park is seeing an influx of vehicles after hours. As is usual in the winter months, concerned relatives of elder town residents ask for welfare checks, and all is well. I'm glad this is from Rich Miller. He's glad to report all were found healthy and okay. Many residents report new lights on homes and other buildings causing blinding to oncoming traffic. A rollover with entrapment accident on Sampsonville required all emergency services agencies to work together and involved live wires down and a snap central Hudson pole. The sole occupant survived. An anxious motorist pulled over onto Route 209 turnaround and needed EMS assistance. KFAS responded. After speaking with the driver, the situation was diffused and the driver received the care they needed. As always, short-term rental properties continue to generate many complaints, especially on holidays, Fridays, and weekends, including trespassing, garbage and dumping, driveway blockages, and noise. This month, noise complaints were at the forefront. Neighbor to neighbor complaints have again increased this month, and all have been diffused without further action necessary.
We had seen like a draft Excel similar to what code enforcement had tracking things. Are we still keeping that up to date? I didn't see one this month.
Oh, I was gonna do it that monthly. So I was gonna send it to you at the workshop, but I can do it. I can submit that at the business meeting if you want.
No, whenever
Okay.
it was helpful, so.
Okay. So next up, it's the board and commission reports from the liaison. So we'll start with Charlotte.
All right. First, I'm gonna do the Rochester Youth and Senior Recreation Commission.
Senior and you.
Senior and youth, sorry, I always get their name wrong. So the Town of Rochester Easter egg hunt will take place at the town park this Saturday. Call to sign up. The event will be held rain or shine. Today, the rec department hosted photos with the Easter Bunny at the Harold Lippman Community Center. Both children and senior citizens enjoyed the experience. Photos can be found on our Facebook page, and there's still time to adopt a road to clean for Earth Day. Call 845-626-2115 to sign up and schedule a time to pick up bags, and then save the date for Friday, May 16th. Will be the Spring Fling Luncheon at the Community Center from 11 a.m. until 1 p.m. And I'm sure more news about that will be posted on the Facebook page from the rec commission and rec department, so that was them. Elder care, they've had an increase in calls for wellness checks the past month from out-of-state children of residents that are in the elder care program to check in on their parents. All were fine and well. They did also get calls and did wellness checks for 6 other organizations from varying places in the county, whether it was nursing homes or Office of the Aging. So getting more constables, especially to help support our program like the elder care program, and also to be able to go out and do the zoning violations and things would be great. This is a side note, since they're the ones that do our wellness checks for the elder care program. And the Community Preservation Fund, hopefully, I'm hoping that we can appoint some members to do that edit, so we can get that process started to get on the ballot. So they can finish the reval of the document and we can put that up. So I'm hoping we can talk about that either later tonight or at our next meeting to start doing those. And what else do I have? Housing Advisory Committee. The Housing Advisory Committee is very deep into work on the RETT and doing community engagement and planning some 2 community forums on housing that we'll be sending out some information on and here's some email blasts. We want to get feedback from the community. That's what's the most important thing of these forums to us. We want to know what housing needs everyone has out there. You know, there's over 7,000 people in this town, so I mean, there's 7,000 different housing needs for the most part. So more info will come on that, but they've been working very vigorously and aggressively to handle that. And they've also been finishing up selecting the design charrette properties from our hack consultation. They're down to just I think 2 options that they're deciding between. Last time I looked in their notes. So hopefully next month, when their deadline is, that we'll have a decision and then we'll start the work on the design part of those deliverables. And the only other note I want to say is for the, I don't remember what we called our subcommittee for the park behind here. But we're making some good headway on that project and we've had 2 meetings with Ashley and Bethany here. And I'm hoping later tonight we can hopefully send out an RFP now we're changing to for the fence company for the back there. So because it's really the project's important. This is where our kids are watched after school. It's where our community events are held. So it should be a safe place back there. And that fence is a mess from trees falling on it. So I'm very excited that we're finally getting the bids out. So thank you. And thank you to Erin for all of your work on that. And also thank you to Ashley and Bethany for planning the event for and Kate planning the event for her mom here for the community. It was really lovely.
Oh, I was yawning.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, I said thank you to you, Ashley and Bethany, for planning the event for the community here for your mother's memorial and inviting the community. It was lovely.
This is me.
Yeah.
So planning board, they're still busy. 9 applications at their regular meeting, lots of site plans, minor, major subdivisions, some new site plans. They had 11 applications at their workshop meeting, so they're consistently doing 2 meetings a month, you know, ranging from 3 to 4 hours. So there's a lot of work that they're doing looking at these projects. The balloon test continues to be postponed. For those in the public who aren't aware, there's a proposal to put a cell tower up on Granite Road. Part of that proposal is they're required to do a balloon test where they float balloons at the height of the tower so that people can observe where it will be visible from different areas of town. And you can obviously only do that when the weather is good because you want the balloons to be where they're actually supposed to be. So they've postponed that, I think 3 or 4 times at this point. And since they're required to perform the test on 2 separate dates, the current schedule feels like everything is happening this weekend. Friday, April 11th, Saturday, April 12th. And if Friday doesn't happen, it'll be rescheduled for Monday, April 14th. And if Saturday doesn't happen, it'll be the following Saturday, April 19th, as the fallback date. Information on that is on the website if people want to go and look that up. And it's going to be on Granite Road, just across from the Granite or Hudson Valley Resort hotel. So if on Friday, you want to see where the tower is going to be, you can look up and Friday or Saturday, you can see where the ones are going to be. Also, they're continuing with the training on Unicolab, so sounds like that's going well. ZBA had a public hearing, I think it was on the 20th, to hear from the public on a request to review a decision by the building department. They had postponed the discussion and any potential decisions on that until their April meeting. Ambulance Advisory Committee, we had interviews with 3 great candidates. I think I mentioned that at our last meeting. Really excellent people to serve in those committees, and we'll be making those appointments later tonight. And then just in time to review some of the documentation we got from KFAS and the documentation we're expecting from Marlton as well, to help us manage that effort. I don't know if I'm still a liaison to Spectrum.
I mean, I definitely took that away from you, but if you want to
Good.
talk about Spectrum, you can.
Take it away from me. So we made the edits that we talked about last time, the red lines to the contract. Supervisor now sent that out. We haven't heard back from them yet, but they're going to review that. So we'll see if the franchise agreement.
So if there's any other edits, we can send, because I haven't heard back from them, so. We can,
Did you get mine?
I saw an update today,
Okay.
but I did not, it had been sent before that. So do we want to add anything?
yeah,
Right,
I think I did it last night.
yeah.
okay,
And Dropbox is, we're finding it's a little
Funky.
it's slow, that, the update thing is slow, but we can tack this on for a discussion item and just make sure we include everything and I can resend a red line.
We do have our Microsoft accounts live, so I know at least mine is.
Oh, cool.
You may also have login. I will check that tomorrow.
You're doing all sorts of updates.
I know. I'm riffing. All right, last one, because I know we want to get the public on. So the Town of Rochester Exchange, had a meeting with supervisor and the transfer station employees, had also met with the exchange volunteers. The consensus was that there should be a clear policy for governing what happens at the exchange. So I volunteered to write a draft of that, wrote a draft of that. It was given to the transfer station employees. They provided feedback. It was given to the volunteers. They provided feedback. So now we have a draft of that. So at the workshop meeting, we'll look at that as a board. And then assuming, make any changes, we can adopt that and then hopefully make any changes over the course of time as we kind of see how that's operating. Overall, I think, the consensus was it's great to have some kind of guiding document for that. And there weren't too many points of disagreement, so that's a good thing. More following that. I think that's for me.
So the HPC, they are planning to host an event in June on window restoration of old windows and historic homes. They're also, did they submit to you a repair list of things they want to do with the Palatine School?
I don't know. I haven't received that.
Okay, because I
In
believe
email.
Wilton was gonna reach out to you. They
Okay.
want to take a look at some things at the Palatine School to possibly do some repairs in there.
Oh, okay.
So I will follow up with him on that. And they plan to have their Whitfield Hamlet Talk Series in June. And their next meeting is scheduled for April 24th at 2:30 p.m. Ulster County Tourism did reach out to see if the HBC has any interest in putting something together to celebrate the 250 and year anniversary of the Revolutionary War next year. Local county will be celebrating it, and they're reaching out to different towns to see if they would like to contribute in any way. So I'll be interested to see through HBC and possibly Friends, what kind of thing we could come up with in our town.
That's
Regarding that.
2026.
Yeah. Great. Thank you.
We should maybe talk about if there's any liaison things that Zolly might want to take over, but I did discuss with Zolly. We are, we should be doing monthly audits of the court records. We do the annual, but there is a checklist for monthly, and I've asked Zolly to take that on. So we talked about how that could happen quarterly. But those reports will just be available for the board to see, and then when we do the annual audit, it'll be easier to compile that together, so. Alexis submitted, just a committee update, I can just quickly summarize, the Agricultural Advisory Committee met with the assessor to review how assessors view agricultural parcels. There was lots of discussion on land use, edge cases, compliance, and suggestions for support to farmers with questions. Climate Smart has started to dig into the bronze certification process. They've asked me to review the list to see what actions have been taken. So I started working on that this week. They've created a subcommittee to work on identifying the low-hanging fruit for that program. And we have 2 appointments on the agenda to add to the task force. And they're working on having their own like decision-making process that they're adopting as a task force. The ECC, we appointed their recommended candidate for the vacancy. They discussed an Earth Day walk event, expanding the pollinator pathway program, the Rondout Safe Swimming Initiative, which I'm not sure what that is. And it looks like they wrote a letter to the ZBA. I'm guessing that was for the public hearing. So that's it for this portion of the agenda. It is now our public comment time, and we're pretty on time for that. We invite members of the public to attend the public comment portion of our meeting in person or virtually. So we always post a Zoom link for this portion of the meeting. As a reminder, this is a time for the public to address the board. Any person speaking to the board should address their remarks to us and not to other members of the audience. And we really would like to discourage debate among the public here. The board will not respond to questions during the public comment session. So I just want to make that clear. You may ask questions, but we won't respond to anything until the town board member time, which follows the public comment portion. So just so you know, if you're asking us questions or thinking that we will respond, we typically won't do that. But if you stick around and are curious to hear if we have a response to anything that was said, we will do that in town board member time before we move on to the least exciting portion of our meeting, which is where we pass all the resolutions. So I just wanted to say that. So at this time, I'll open the public comment portion of the meeting. We usually go for anyone that's here in person first, and then we see if there's anyone who's joined virtually. We let everyone speak once before we will let anyone speak twice, just so you are aware. So is there anyone here who'd like to speak, to address the board tonight? Yes.
It's a question. When you open up an ordinance and create an ordinance, what is to stop other things from slipping in once that door is open? you said, it wouldn't affect mowing or chainsaws, but. My question would be, once the ordinance is created. Can things be easily slipped in that way? That would affect those things that you were talking about.
Is there anyone else who'd like to address the board?
Everyone, and I'd like to just bring up a few different comments, and the last one will actually be a bit in my official capacity as emergency management with a situation on one of our roads. But in regards to this document and having looked at it, thank you, Erin, I got this from you today. Town of Rochester noise ordinance exploration here. I can recall back, over 20 years or so ago, when the town was under the direction of then, and there's no animosity in what I'm saying, just facts that can be checked out. Supervisor Pam Duke, administration, and in fact, we're looking into limiting the amounts of noise and so forth, especially on weekends. And along with that, and that included mowing, different use of power equipment and so forth and so on. That was quite, I can recall, a contentious meeting that took place in which I remember observing 2 uniformed state police officers, and being a law enforcement officer at the time myself, I found that interesting that the town board was so concerned because of what was being brought up by the town board and being put in to our regulations on our own use of property and days and times that we could use it. I just remember just seeing it as, be careful of these slippery slopes that we go down, because they can lead into, and although, yes, the goals and objectives of the outdoor amplified sound ordinance for commercial uses could easily then be transferred to those of us personally, and the personal use of our properties and the things on our properties. And that was a situation that I, in fact, personally, or my family personally experienced when one of our neighbors, and at that one particular area, I own over 30 acres of property there, and was simply utilizing one of my small tractors to get firewood, when a person and a neighbor started yelling about the noise from the tractor and how I was breaking an ordinance that in fact didn't exist. And that it got so bad that I had no choice but to bring, in this case, the state police into the matter to intercede and explain to this person there was no ordinance, and in fact, that noise probably would not have been, something in which the town would have had a matter involved in. It was sad because just recently, this past winter, the same person was in fact running, and I understood why, a log splitter that in fact made far more noise than my tractor was making at the time, a few years ago. My whole point is, we, I think, need to get back to being neighborly and understanding a bit with one another, how we act and interact with our neighbors. And I would not like to, and I'll leave this issue with this interesting observation that I made while I, in fact, was working and assigned on a duty in California. And this occurred back in the mid-90s in a city known as Davis, California. And in that city, and anybody wants to fact check me, go ahead. And they had come out with an ordinance that was in fact a noise ordinance. And the first violation, and this was given to us by the police officers that we were, in fact, and their supervisor, who was explaining this one to us, this is what put Davis on the map. A gentleman who was in his backyard on his property snoring in a hammock was issued, it was upheld, and I believe, yeah, I'm going back a ways, $50 violation, and the judge actually had to administer that because it was an ordinance. And the person literally had whatever machinery he happened to have at that time to record the noise from the person sleeping and loudly snoring in a hammock. And again, this is a very slippery slope, and it was brought up to us as to, yes, if you've heard about this, I'm here to tell you that this did happen here in Davis, California. My whole point is, this needs some more work in looking at this fact sheet. And one of those things that I bring up is hunting and shooting and all, and being one that teaches hunter safety and things like that. I don't know where this ends. This is where we have to be very careful about what we do with that. I'll move right on to the last thing. As far as roads, and a number of persons that came in a few months back at one of the meetings I was here at, were talking about, and we talked about how dangerous it's gotten with the influx of people, not just since COVID, but just simply the influx of people, and how our roads are in fact very narrow, and no, we don't have any lines in them, but you should be able to know the right from being not in the right side of the road. Yesterday, just yesterday, I had an experience on Whitfield Road, and I bring that up because that is brought up in this involving concerts, whatever. Whitfield Road, right between the line of Marbletown and our town of Rochester, has some serious shortcomings in which, had I moved a little bit further with an oncoming vehicle, there was no way I was gonna keep my trailer, my trailer with some stone I was bringing to fill the holes from going down quite a distance. No guardrail, there's nothing. And that road is extremely dangerous. And my lovely wife, who sits behind me, travels that every day back and forth to work and has experienced, I know, very similar situations. We need, as a town, to look at these safety things, and I brought them up as your emergency management person. One of these days, we're going to have a situation that's going to be quite dangerous and sadly deadly with what we're seeing so much more between the speeding, doing other things than driving the vehicle, and the general maintenance there of our roads, our little overpasses and bridges. I think that needs to be the number one priority right now, this town board. Let's get a handle on and not add more things right now to what we have is a very dangerous condition. And thank you all for your time.
Yes.
My name is Alex Jamburis. I own a business at 209. In the summertime, they open the restaurant, and a lot of people come down here. And I'm dependent for the people to come to see my store. They come and shop. Now we will close it down. I will, pack up and go back where I come from. I'm not going back. What I'm saying is, I see people there playing the music come from Hudson. Which then they come, so I saw a nice beautiful store, for bare furniture. But they come to shop. They bring food, money on the town. Which, I make the money and I pay my taxes. And I live in this town. You close them down because of music. I'm gonna lose business. The music they have, they start at 6:30 afternoon, and they're done by 10. The latest, maybe 10:30, what noise? What noise? In the summertime, you have the AC on in your home. It's more noise, and you can hear it. And you have your little TV over there, or your big screen, and and you listen to the news, or you listen to your music, you don't hear the music. You tell me you wanna sit outside? With 1,000 million mosquitoes biting you in these woods in there? No, you're not. You're not, so how you hear the music? You don't like the people. So I have to change the way of life. I live up here for the last 38 years. Look at us. That's all who remain. The rest of us left. What they try to do? We move out too. We have problem with the fire department. No people. There's a gas station just open up down the road. No people to open up. I'm looking for people to work for me. I give up working for the state, building schools, because I don't have no people to come with me to work. And I pay good money. The state pays good money because it's prevailing wages. I don't have no people to work, so you know what I'm doing lately? I'm building homes. Because I don't have no people to work. So it's just me and my son and a few guys I have. Now we're closing more business down. Whew. For the rest of us, where we're gonna go? I mean, I don't think they have any more room, South Carolina, North Carolina for us. So maybe we'll think about it. You know, closing down the business down. Thank you.
Is there any, one else here who'd like to address the board? Yes.
I continue to it works, I live on Lakewood Road. And a couple of things. First thing, I know we're not answering questions, but my recollection, which could be mistaken, is that when we had meetings regarding Innis, there was conversation about a green screen. And when I was listening to this gentleman speak, I remember my son said recently, you know, if they did some plantings, it would cushion some of the sound, and maybe that's a compromise, because we do need to have businesses in town. I'm very sorry for what's happening with this land. And if that is in fact, if my recollection is correct, and I think it is, then I would hope that maybe the town would look into enforcing this. We've given a lot of tax breaks to Innis, God bless, but you know what? Let's have the cushion of the green screen, because maybe some of the people who are disturbed by the noise would be less disturbed if there was the green screen. I also feel that some of the businesses that are impacted, you know, such as Stonehouse. You know, a lot of these businesses are giving employment to local people. A lot of young people have been getting good jobs and learning the right way to work from Linda, who runs the Stonehouse, and it's a very valuable thing. My niece worked there, very valuable. And that's a business that really reinvests in our community. I do some nonprofit things, and maybe I'm sure Innis is doing something, but it's not with our scholarship fund locally or with our local nonprofits. And, you know, Linda does a lot. She volunteers. I've been on committees with her when the hours are stinky, where she was missing her own job at the restaurant to go with me to the school to volunteer. We did an evening leadership academy. We sat on community task force through the school. She does the business association. So I feel that she's putting all this into the community. We don't want to alienate the people who support us, because we are neighbors. I agree with Mr. Fornito, we need to act like neighbors. And you know what, on Whitfield Road, I hear it all where my house sits. I hear Stonehouse, I hear Innis, I hear Arrowwood, and I hear the races, and I don't complain about any of it. It's a season, and just because I don't want to go to the races, my neighbor wants to go to the races, I want them to be able to go to the races. And when I bought my house, I knew where the racetrack was. I knew where the Stonehouse was. Innis wasn't a thing yet, but the golf was over there. We had concerns, and another thing that we don't call the town, but maybe we should start, and I mean this respectfully, not in a snotty way, but you know, we count how many vehicles turn around in our driveway on the weekends from Innis. It's ridiculous. I'm at 19 Whitfield, it's continual. But we also just gotta be nice neighbors and think about what we want in our neighborhood. And you know what, maybe I'm gonna be inconvenienced. But, you know, and this is not prejudice, my great grandfather was smuggled out of Russia in a laundry thing to avoid the Holocaust. But do you want a Hasidic camp where Innis is? What do you want? We want good neighbors. So I really hope that the community will really consider that. We want agriculture. And to the gentleman over there's point, who had mentioned, once you open it up, who knows what'll happen? Sometimes it feels like we forget that we're the town of Rochester and not Manhattan. And a lot of people elected to live here because they don't want to be in Manhattan. I lived in the city for 22 years, I've come home and I can't relate to, I'm shocked at the amount of complaints that people have. It's a pretty good place to live. Our roads need some work. Maybe every city person doesn't need to pull over on Whitfield Road between the PX and Innis where they do, where it's dangerous. But it's just for consideration, and I really think that whatever is done, I really implore the town to make sure that it is equal. Because sometimes it feels, and the chatter in the community is, favoritism is given to the outsider. Favoritism, and I welcome new neighbors. Favoritism is given to the people who come in, they get these huge tax breaks. I know one person who works there, one. Okay, I'm not against them, otherwise I would be complaining about them, but what I'm saying is, let us support our local people who are providing employment, revenue, tax money in our community, and I really hope whatever legislation, whatever ordinance goes in, it should be equal. So whatever pertains to the Stone House must pertain to Innis. And it's not because I'm against Innis, but because it seems as though the Stone House has been targeted a lot. And other small businesses. Thank you for your time.
Is there anyone else who'd like to address the
Just
board?
say one more thing.
Can we let
Oh, yeah,
everyone talk once
Yeah, I'm
and then
sorry.
we'll, anyone else here who'd like to address the board? And then we do have someone, I think, on, we should see if the person who's,
Wayne, did you want to speak? I think you can unmute.
Nope, I'm all good, thank you.
We can't hear you.
is,
Oh, no.
No comments?
No comment, I'm good.
Thank you.
okay.
I'll be quick. Obviously, I love chainsaws, but I just want to say, I agree with this woman back here. This is a rural area. It's not the suburbs yet. But change happens. And we live in these times where it's us and them. And recently I posted something on Nextdoor and then somebody got on there. It was like, the old time, the people that have been here forever, they think they can get away with this and I was trying to say, it's not that way. We're actually a minority now. We are a minority. And we're trying to preserve a way of life because we don't have the option to go to New York City, make our money, make our noise, and come back here and have our weekends free when the people that are working to pay higher taxes in an area that went way beyond us. We got to work sometimes 2 jobs. Maybe you only got a Sunday to mow your grass, cut your firewood. So I just want to make everybody aware that that's the thing that we're here for. We're not trying to stop change. We're just trying to preserve something a little bit longer. And you know what? I think that was the character of what people came up here from the city. They've been coming up here since way before. My family's been here 1600s. And there's been a lot of changes. And we came here from Manhattan. And we made changes with the Delaware Indians and the Esopus Indians. And so there's always going to be change. But last time I was here, I talked about Horton Hears a Who. And we're here. We're just on this little dust speck. We're here. This is a small community now. A lot of those people that might voice complaints, they're not part of a community, but we want them to be. We really want them to be. So instead of having a noise ordinance where it can make trivial, petty complaints from neighbor to neighbor that may not be noise related, 9 times out of 10, you're just gonna have a neighbor that just doesn't like another neighbor. And the town is gonna be just filled, all your boards are gonna be filled, zoning board is gonna be filled, constantly going out for complaints. Neighbor on neighbor, and that doesn't build community, that tears it down. So I just wanted to add that and say that we can communicate if we drop that us and them. All right, there is no us and them. I know it's been that way in America right now, but we're not gonna get past it unless we can communicate. We can't communicate when we're saying we're us and them. All right, we're the town of Rochester. We're a whole bunch of different people. Some of us came post 9/11, some came after COVID, some came 1600, some people came whenever you got here, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if you got here last week. You have to be a neighbor, and it's better to educate your neighbor than to just put up a wall and say, no, that's not how we do things here. All right, that's it.
Does anyone else want to address the board tonight? We have another at the end of the meeting, if you stay, we have another public comment portion. Okay, so I'll go ahead and. Oh, what was that? Oh, okay. So I'll go ahead and close the public comment portion of the meeting, and at this time, I'll open up the town board member time. So this is the time the board can address any of the comments or concerns that were in the public comment portion or anything else. So it's just an open time.
I just have a question for Councilman Coleman, for the exchange, the, guidelines, I can call them, did you find them based off of anywhere, anything that you would give them, or you just kind of do like? Why, the Habitat Restore might have actually a really good. It's weird item, but you're like, no, I don't know with that, for them, because I've used them for resources for other policies. Yeah, they have a lot, they have really, for some reason, Habitat, I'm sure speak to this, but Habitat for Humanity has a lot of really good, protocols and like, steps and procedures for those things that are easily duplicated because they have so many centers. But cool, that was it, that's all I had.
Anyone else want to address anything?
I mean. I hear everybody's points here about slippery slopes. I remember Hoppy coming here. Talking about Horton, here's a who, we spoke on the phone, back then, we should speak again, obviously, I saw your post on Nextdoor. I think, when the board discussed this, everyone here was unanimous, that we really didn't want to do anything that would impact parts of living in the town of Rochester that we've all grown accustomed to and are just standard things that we expect living in the country, people hunting, people going to the racetrack, people, doing what they do to live their lives.
Listening to music outside.
Listening to music outside, I mean, it's why we wanted to make sure it didn't apply to residences. In terms of how easy is it to change that? The technical answer is it's as hard to change it from a process perspective as it is to actually create the law. You still have to go through all the steps. The reality is, though, I mean, there's work that goes into creating the law, so a future board could very well come in and say, we're gonna add 5, 6 different things to that and make it an issue. A future board with none of these members could also come in and start from scratch and say, we're gonna do a noise ordinance and make it as restrictive as possible. So we really have no control over what future boards will do. I can tell you that this board was unanimous in terms of wanting to make this as tailored as possible. And I think this board is also willing to hear that feedback, and we appreciate everyone coming here and talking about this and hearing it out. We've also heard the opposite side, and unfortunately, I don't see it as represented here today, but there's a lot of people that have brought up the neighborly thing, because we all want to do that. I mean, I hear gunshots, I hear music, I hear people using chainsaws, and I do all those things too. And I don't complain about people, and I don't want people to complain about me. But that's who I am as a person. I go and I talk to them directly, and I have all my neighbors' numbers, and if there's an issue, I call them.
Unfortunately, that hasn't been the case for some other people in town. Because we have heard from people that have gone and talked to their neighbors and, you know, they don't adhere to what they're being requested. And I think, you know, it's very different when you're talking about a small scale chainsaw artist compared to a large scale event space or you know, commercial use that is basically like, no, we'll take the ticket, you know, because we have a wedding that's gonna pay us 20 times that amount, or we have another event that's gonna, you know, easily cover the cost of the expense. So I think, you know, the challenge for this board is really to take all of this feedback, to consider the people that are expressing their concerns about not music in general, but music happening at 11 o'clock at night that's shaking their windows. And figure out if there's a middle ground that we can find for people. I don't know if there is one. There's going to be unhappy people either way. But again, I think, you know, this board can only do what this board can do. And you know what? If there is a noise ordinance and the future board thinks it's a terrible thing, they can also get rid of it. This board has gotten rid of, well, not this board, previous boards have gotten rid of laws that they thought didn't make sense for the community. So it's a process of change. It's a process of hearing people out. And I, for one, just really appreciate everybody coming out, expressing their perspective. So thank you.
Yeah, I actually just want to piggyback off Michael's responses. I unfortunately live next to one of the only properties in town that is exempt from town laws. So, and they have football-sized stadium speakers, and it's for they're exempt from all of our laws, so I have a hard time sympathizing with people when it comes to local sound ordinances, because this won't affect me whatsoever and what my noisy neighbor is, and it doesn't matter if I email the superintendent or the Board of Education, I still know all the team players and their numbers, whether I want to or not, who are on that football field every Friday. So, but that being said, I think that I support this because universally in town, not just specific businesses, but that we have heard issues from Crested Hen to Stonehouse, to the racetrack, to Innis, to almost every, I think, business in town that's open to the public. I've heard a complaint about in my 4 years here. And we're trying to find the solution. There's gonna be more opportunity when we actually draft something and have it out for public comment and things like that too. And we want to hear your feedback, so please continue to come and give us your feedback, but know that this, at least from my seat here, this is, and I think the same for the rest of the board, that this is coming from a completely neutral, we're trying to respond to the universal complaints that we're hearing from all sides of town, which is that there's businesses, regardless of who owns them, that are making extreme noise at 11 o'clock at night and on the weekends, and when our toddlers are trying to sleep, and when our kids are trying to sleep, or grandma's napping. And it's gonna happen everywhere, but I agree, everyone, I would love this community to feel way more neighborly. But please know that this is coming from a place of wanting to find more unity. It's not coming from a place of wanting to divide more. At least I just want you guys to know that that's really something that I'm locally helpful on the board. But I'm not coming from that place with this. I've known Linda since I was 5, so.
Thanks. Yeah, I think I would, you know, one of the criticisms that the board, since I've been on it, has had is when we release a law and it's open for public hearing and people are like, you know, what is this? And we're trying to put things out to the public a lot sooner so that we have an opportunity to get more input before we've gotten to that level, which is, you know, you put all the work in, you release it, and then people are like, hey, look at this. So we are purposefully putting this on agendas where we know the public will see it, putting documents out about what our intent is. We're planning on having, you know, if we can schedule just open discussion sessions on it, we're planning on doing that, because I agree, you know, you can't legislate certain things. But I will say our boards and my office and the clerk's office and our constables and our code enforcement office are already inundated with complaints. So, and we, you know, this is an exploration of is there something that, some middle ground that we can find? As a business owner myself, I agree. I do not think that we should be making it difficult for businesses to thrive in our community. We need that job creation, especially restaurants industry is very difficult to like survive. We don't want to create things that are going to make it impossible for businesses to excel in our community, and that's why I'm making a commitment to also engage with, you know, the Rondout Valley Business Association and the businesses in our community to make sure that we're not creating, you know, some sort of unintended consequence. But that is one of the reasons why we're very, very narrowly focused and nothing, you know, the slippery slope, you know, it could happen. I don't think it'll happen with this particular board, but any iteration of a board can consider and pass and change laws within the same process where, you know, it takes a few months, but that's, you know, they can do that. I will say that, you know, our laws and our ordinances are living documents. So there's always the chance that a law that maybe you really like could get overturned, and there's always a chance that something that you didn't ever think of could impact you could happen. So they're living documents that are meant to be changed. And so I think, you know, it's definitely something to think about, and that's why I think it's important that we put our intention forward. So.
Yeah, and specific to Hoppy's question, so we would have to, this is public comment. We would have to have a draft law, do a public hearing where the community again gets to respond. And then we would have to go through a series of steps before it would even become an ordinance. And then if a future board wanted to add, they can't just slip in something through a resolution. It also has to go through the whole process, public hearing, going out, you know, 7 days, et cetera, whatever the requirements are. So to Erin's point, it can be done, but it's not going to be like, oh, I didn't pay attention to one meeting and suddenly this happened. It would be a multi-step process, even to change anything that we would pass.
And I encourage everyone to go to the town website. And we have, if you go to the top of the town website, and there's the how do I under the how do I, there's receive notifications. You can sign up for our notification list. You can get text or email. There's different options for the things you can sign up for. So when we schedule public hearings or post agendas for town board meetings or planning board meetings, you'll get an email or a text. And that'll help let you know what's going on with the town board specifically, but other things in town. Okay, moving on, right, to resolutions. First resolution is acceptance of the minutes for the March 13th, 2025 business meeting and the March 27th, 2025 workshop meeting.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstained? Motion carries. You had the donations funded. Thank you. Acceptance of the donations from St. Patrick's Day luncheon for $529. Michael Arimas Foundation for summer program in the amount of $2,500 and St. Pauli Textile in the amount of $135.13.
I'll make that motion.
Second. Any discussion?
Can you give me St. Pauli's number again?
135.13.
Yes.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstain? Motion carries. The acceptance of abstract 4A of 2025. So I'll make the motion that the town board accepts abstract 4A of 2025 and approves the payments in the following amounts. General fund, $42,138.76. Highway fund, $5,644.64. Capital fund is $0. Street lighting fund, $34.50. escrow, $4,480.16. That has parentheses around it because it's part of general fund. We have an abstract 16 of 2024. General fund is $1,552.17. And street lighting is $208.43. Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? The abstract 16 is the Dexam. So we get billed really late for that, but it's electric service from the end of 2024. All in favor? Aye. Opposed, abstain, motion carries. Next up. Huh? No, we just need to settle. Did anyone have any, we've got the changes to the Housing Advisory Committee resolution that Charlotte prepared. Do you guys, Charlotte, do you want to walk us through that and then we'll. Oh, okay. I have it open.
Yeah, they were pretty. Mostly to do with terms and then changing to citizen residents, and then while I was in, and reading through it, like I said earlier, we have a diverse community, we have over 7,000 people living in housing units. So I wanted to change the number of people and increase it on the committee so that we can get more of a broader background for when they're making recommendations. We can field a larger area of town with more members. So I changed it from 5 to 9 to
7
5
and
to
10.
5, yes, to
Yeah.
7 and 10. From the original, I also just made a lot of the language match for the types of housing in town. Some of the action items that we had given them were, some said senior, some said affordable, so I just made them all universally say senior workforce, or affordable senior workforce and sustainable housing. To just kind of make it universal for any of the goals that they're looking at, all forms of housing as possibilities. I also added to bring services or create outreach for residents for programs in our area. So if there's any other outside through the county, through Office of the Aging, through Rubco, Family of Woodstock, anything like that, that have to do with housing, that they get for that information, at least for the website, for on the housing page. And the other thing I did that was the biggest change was I took out the chairperson. They haven't really been operating with a chair. They've kind of been doing a rotating facilitator for each meeting the past almost 3, I think we're on third year, it's been the 2.5 years that the committee's been around. But what we have had is someone that has really kind of been a point person, almost like a corresponding secretary from the committee to myself as liaison, or I feel also strongly with the Hacking Soul and then with you, Aaron. We kind of have one member, so I propose to put in there that the committee appoints a corresponding secretary. That's this person's also the one who takes minutes of the meetings for them, just to keep one clear communicating person. But I think that as a whole, there's not in my new position, I work with 3 different housing committees that are from other towns in the county for my professional 9 to 5, and none of them have chairs. It's kind of hard to get most housing committees on a consensus for a chair for that type of thing, for one person who wants to take the lead, because I don't think anyone wants to be the one responsible for the, the recommendations. They don't want to say I'm in charge of the whole committee. So I proposed that in there, and I just changed the term limits to make it so that we stagger them for the 2 years. Yes, I believe that was. Oh, and I also changed the reporting. We had it in here that they should have been giving us quarterly reports, and obviously I've kind of been doing that with their monthly liaison report. So I put to give us biannual reports. That included those same things that we wanted when we originally formed the committee, in a report, which were the housing inventory, the median price changes from the previous half, a summary of their activities from the previous half, and, any draft resolution recommendations they have, and the results of any community engagement campaigns that they have. Oh, and I also added that they should create a minimum of 2 community engagement events, campaigns, whatever they want to call it, within the calendar year to get community feedback on housing needs in the town for us, so that we get some valid data back.
Do they have budget authority?
No. No, they're an ad hoc committee. They're just advisory to us. They are to no one else. It's just, I think they.
We do have a budget.
We have a
them,
budget
but
for them, but they
we
don't
would make
have
that-
any
yeah.
decision. They have no power to make any decision. Like, they asked me if they can post something to the website before they send it to Aaron, so they're very good about it. They follow that type of process. But yeah, any questions, comments, concerns?
I thought you did a good job. I think there's just 2 things that come up for me is I wonder if we just make their reporting requirement annual.
Mhm. I'm fine with that. I made it, I didn't want to go fully to annual. I felt the same way. If they would just give us a changeover, like an annual report of the changes,
Yeah.
which they kind of did this past year when they brought, back into December, was it? November, when they first brought up the RETT, they kind of brought us a little summary of, some of the points that we had here. So yeah, I'm fine with changing that to
Okay,
annually
so
instead of,
annual.
biannually.
And then it'll be for over the previous year.
Yes, all the half.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Michael, were you gonna say something? Okay. Otherwise, I think we should just adopt it with that change.
Right.
Does everyone else agree? Okay, so. You wanna make that? motion?
Sure, I'll
Okay.
make the motion. Oh, do I have to read this whole resolution?
That, we adopt the
For-
amendments.
Yeah, oh, yeah, that we, so I motion that the town of Rochester Town Board re-adopt resolution 221 of 2022 with the amendments as presented for 10/2025
And
and amended.
Second.
any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstain, motion carries.
Nice.
Great. So I'll so. For that, I emailed that to you, but I can
Okay.
make those changes. so
Okay.
it's under where they are.
I was gonna say I could do the Word document, right? So you can
Mhm,
use-
yeah.
Wonderful. Thanks, Anna.
Yeah, so we're moving on to appointments. You're ready, Michael, for yours?
I had one question. I thought last time we said the terms were till 2025 and 2027. And we say 2027, 2028. Just wanted to clarify.
They're 3-year terms that expired. One of them expired in 2024 and one of them expires at the end of this year. So it would be 2027 and 2028, right?
If one expires at the end of this year, when they do finishing out this year, then,
Oh, you're right. I'm sorry. Oh, man. Ooh,
so 25 and 27?
yes,
Okay, then I'm
Oh.
ready.
okay. Yeah.
You want me to go first?
No, I'll go, I'll make a motion that the town of Rochester Town Board appoints Julie Goldshed to the Board of Assessment Review in a term expiring September 30th, 2025.
Sure.
I know it is.
Second this.
Any discussion? That's the term that's open. currently. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
If there are 2 terms open, is this a shorter term or a longer term?
Well, let me explain. We have someone in an expired term currently. So I did not want to make that.
Yeah.
Without a conversation. Okay, all in favor? Aye. Opposed, abstained, motion carries. Okay, Michael, do you want to make this next one?
Sure. like to make a motion that the town board appoint the following members to the Rochester and High Falls, I think it's the Ambulance Improvement District Tax Advisory Committee,
Oh,
but I don't
really?
have to confirm. I thought there was tax somewhere.
There.
Anyway, so I'd like to motion that Ken McCarthy be appointed to the Rochester AID. AITB,
The committee.
to the committee.
ATAC.
In a term that expires 12/31/2025. I'd like to make a motion and that Caitlin Kelder be appointed to the Rochester Committee, in term that expires 12/31/2027. And that Lyle Roebuck be appointed to the High Falls Committee, in a term that expires 12/31/2025. And that Caitlin Kelder be appointed to the High Falls Committee, in a term that expires 12/31/2027.
So she's on that.
Second.
Any discussion? And these were the recommendations from the committees.
Correct, yeah,
Okay.
committee all agree with it.
Okay, all in favor? Aye. Opposed, abstained, motion carries. Very exciting that we have full.
And we need to add another spot so that we can find more.
Oh, okay. That seems to be what we're doing. So, I'll make a motion that the town of Rochester Town Board appoints Hank Pejink in a term that expires 12/31/2026. And Felisa Shiskin in a term that expires 12/31/2025 to the Climate Smart Task Force.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed, abstained, motion carries. Do you want to do those with the new terms? Okay,
Okay. I can do them all at once and just list the names of the
Mhm.
terms, right? Okay. Alright, I make a motion that the town of Rochester Town Board appoints Alana Blum to the Housing Advisory Committee for a term to end 12/27. And I also to appoint Claire Wasser for a term that ends on December 2027.
December 31st.
Or December 30th, yes, thank you, sorry, girl. What I was saying. And then I make a motion for appoint Martha Roberge for a term ending December 31st, 2027. Did I? You just said staggered, right? Okay, that's what I thought. And or I'm sorry, so Martha Roberge for a term to end.
2 years.
Decided, okay, so Martha Roberge's term should actually be 2026, December 2026, apologies. And to appoint Ken Stevens to the Housing Advisory Committee for a term to end December 31st, 2027. And to appoint Elizabeth Zeldin for a term to end December 31st, 2025. Oh,
Second.
Okay, so I do think we have to amend this because it's 2-year staggered terms, so I think we need to do 2 the end 2025 and the 3 the end 2026, because those would be 2-year terms. Because they ended 2024. Does that make sense?
okay, so then, yeah, we have to amend Elizabeth's then, the 26 is what you're saying.
She would, and then the 20, Marty and Elizabeth would be to 2025. Alana, Claire, and Ken would be to 2026. Because then otherwise we're appointing them to a 3-year term.
Oh, yes, yeah, I did that math wrong, sorry. Yes, okay, so we'll change. Alana, Claire, and Ken to 2026, Marty and Elizabeth to 2025. So, I'm terrible with time that.
Okay, so we'll vote on the resolution as amended.
Motion as amended.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, motion carries. Good. And we do have candidates for these other open seats.
The committee wants to do a little subcommittee, so I'm hoping that I'll be able to bring those. By next month.
So I replaced our selection of a fence company with the issuance of an RFP for a fence company. And I apologize, this is in your backup for today. So if you guys wanna move this to discussion and then we can publish it, or we can go through it. I had to do a lot of legal digging on this because just with our procurement policy in New York State law, this fence purchase is a public works project. So I discovered some things about public works projects that we needed to include, and one of them is that if it's in a certain threshold, we have to do a written request or proposal. That's what it's called in our procurement policy, but it's a quote. It's a request for quotes. So I consulted with the recreation department we're requesting that all companies issue quotes for both a full replacement and a partial replacement. And to itemize their quote to include like the cost of removal, any vegetation clearing that they're doing, and the installation. And then I'm giving it until basically we want to make the selection on the 24th,
I thought
24th of which month?
this
last
month,
month, or no,
this month.
yeah. I personally, I read through it, I'm comfortable, thank you for doing the work on that, Erin, because originally we were hoping to just bring a quote, like, not. But, thank you for doing the background work on, the public works requirements for us, but I would like us to try to not, if everyone else is comfortable, to try to pass this tonight so that we can get the quotes back. This project has been a long time coming, and we're also working with schedules of the after-school program that still needs to use the park actively now, and then the summer program that will be using the other park. So we have to have things down after the after-school program ends, but back up before summer ends.
Move that we authorize the supervisor to publish an RFP for the fence repair on replacement. Then I form as presented in the draft here.
Second, so we can have discussion.
Yeah, I just have two things. So there was also the transfer station fence. Did we ever get that fixed?
I just decided not to include that right now.
Do we want to include, because I assume that they want to do a site survey, that they need to coordinate that through you so they don't show up when,
I did.
okay.
It is on site visit.
Got it. That's all.
I can take that part out. That's what.
No, we say approximate, so they,
They say approximately, they're gonna come out and measure anyway themselves.
Okay, I'm good
We
with
give a
that.
quote.
We could say. Just the parameter of the chain link fence.
Don't listen to me.
Okay.
Perfect.
Okay.
It's great. You said approximate, they're gonna come and measure it regardless, because they're gonna have to know, so.
Okay. So we have a motion, a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, motion carries. Okay, great.
Thanks, guys.
All right, You know what I'd like to do is table this event for discussion, because I have to give you guys a lot of background, and we'll just do the court report now. Are you guys okay with that change?
Yes.
Okay. So we're skipping over J. We're gonna move that to a discussion item, just so we can kind of stick with our format. So I'll let someone else make it, actually. So you have the report. I emailed them out also.
For the justice court?
Yes.
Yeah, I'll make it. I motion that that whereas the New York State law requires that the town board examine the records of the town justice court annually, and whereas the examination of the 2024 town of Rochester justice court record has been completed and documented in a written report. Now therefore be it resolved that the town board in the town of Rochester accepts the annual justice court records review report. And be it further resolved that the town board authorizes the town supervisor to submit the signed reports to the New York State Unified Court System Division of Internal Audit Services.
Any discussion?
Thank you for doing this, Aaron.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, motion carries. And just, we are the oversight board, but it is the the state unified court system is the audit. They are the
Yeah, they're the
authority.
authority.
We are just the ones issuing the report.
Yes, we're like the double checkers.
Okay, so we are now at our second public comment portion of our meeting, 15 minutes early. Not really, it's just I'm guessing when I put these times in. So same rules apply for anyone that joined and wants to participate. The board will not engage in a question and answer back and forth, but you may ask questions and we can answer them during our discussion. And please address your remarks directly to the board. So are there any members of the public that would like to address the board at this time? Yes.
As a noisy neighbor myself, you know, Gary has a curfew, right? I mean, it's 12 o'clock, right, Gary?
11:30.
11:30. I mean, the last race has to be started before then. Obviously, music is a different thing. You kind of can shut down, but I mean, how childish would it be to get a phone call at midnight, like, hey, my neighbor's playing music too loud, and I mean, I know I'm not gonna roll out of bed for that. Probably nobody else either, you know? So I just feel that it'd be a hard thing to enforce. I mean, and the cops, imagine them getting a call, they have many more domestic disputes in this town to deal with than that, or drunk drivers. Yeah, that's about it. I mean, I think I'm not opposed to a noise ordinance with the right timeframes, you know, like, I mean, I think on a school night, we'll call a school night a weeknight, maybe 10, 11 PM, like would be okay, acceptable. 6 AM in the morning, obviously. Or on a weekend, midnight and 6 AM, you know, I think there could be meeting ground in the middle that could maybe be met to, you know, that would affect us all, but like I said, I don't think, you know, anybody's gonna roll out of bed for a call at midnight saying, oh, my neighbor's playing music too loud. I just.
Well, they'll do it.
Well, they'll call, sure, but.
We had a guy come to the racetrack and you can't shoot
Excuse me,
fireworks off.
we have. If you'd like to speak, you can speak, but he's got the floor now.
No, I mean, okay, that's all I have to say.
Okay, is there anyone else that would like to address the board at this time? Yes.
Aaron, I was wondering if you looked into getting that microphone so we could hear everybody. And the planning board. Why do they have to take 10-minute breaks when everybody's sitting here and wants to get done and get home. I don't have to work no more, but I have to get up at a decent time. Take breaks all the time. Anybody here goes to the bathroom, they come back. They're like taking 10-minute breaks. You know? And then people leave. It's not, I don't think it's fair.
So unless there's anyone else that would like to address the board, I'll go ahead and close this.
I was just gonna say one more
Okay.
thing. That I learned that Solly told me he's my neighbor. And so I'm taking it on myself to go down my whole road, to be proactive and talk to all my neighbors and say, do I make too much noise? Do I bother you? And so we can maybe not get to the point where we need a noise ordinance. If you have a public hearing and maybe we can educate each other on what's the appropriate conduct in doing something like this, maybe we can avoid having it. Because I think the ordinance would be more of a problem, but if we can stop it by just educating the community about what would be, this, you're gonna have this option, or you can just handle it yourself with your neighbor. So I mean, I thank Zolly for, kind of telling me that this was something, and that I already talked to a couple of neighbors to say, hey, please let me know if I'm causing a problem. So we can fix that here without having to go to a noise ordinance. That was it. I just wanted to say, maybe we could educate the community more on different options other than an ordinance.
Great, so I'll close this public comment portion of the meeting.
Sure, hold on.
Oh, how-
Mr. Benson, any comments?
No comment. Nobody's good to go. All right.
Okay. I did forget to do my resolutions, that I had included, so let's do those real quick before we move on to the discussion. So the first additional resolution was authorizing the execution of the Ulster County Youth Bureau contract. So I'll make that motion.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, abstain, motion carries. The next is resolution, it would be amending resolution 319 of 2024, the 2025 Accord Speedway race dates. So I'll make the motion that whereas we approve the 2025 racing schedule for the Accord Speedway, and the Speedway has requested amendments to its schedule. Now therefore be it resolved that the town board approves the following changes to the racing schedule. So change the race date from Tuesday, May 13th, 2025, with a rain date of May 14th, to Tuesday, May 6th, 2025, with a rain date of May 7th. Change the race date from Saturday, June 21, 2025, to Saturday, June 28, 2025. Remove the previously scheduled race on Tuesday, July 1st, 2025, and add a new race on Saturday, August 30th, 2025.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstain, motion carries. And our next one I'm saving till after the executive session. So discussion items. I'm gonna start with the ones that are printed on the original agenda. So the first is the bids for the town park seasonal restroom facility. We had the bid open and it closed on April 4th. We received one bid response, which is a very solid response. Though I discovered today that there's a new law that went into effect December 31st, 2024, that all contractors with public works projects have to register with the Department of Labor before bidding. And that was not something I was aware of, so I included that in the quote for tonight. But, because of that, I consulted with our attorney, I literally just found it, like, you can ask Kate, I found out about it this afternoon. And she recommended that we reject all bids and then rebid it. So, and then include that so that the bidders have the opportunity to do that before they submit their bid. I looked it up, it's pretty straightforward.
So it's not that.
It's not, oh, I looked it
Is that
up.
a 100L application?
No, it's like your basic business information. If you have any, I think the biggest thing is if you have any, I can pull it up right now.
But it's just it's a single registration, not for this contract specific.
Correct.
So it's a general application.
Yeah, it's general. It's not for us, but then they have to give us the certificate. Yeah. Or show that they did that.
I move that we reject all the bids and set a new deadline that requires that part of labor registration as part of the package with a deadline of.
Well, I don't know how long it takes them. I'm gonna look it up. I forgot to get that.
Is it that they have registered or that they registered and were accepted?
Some of the applications you can do online, others. You never get a response back. We have to call them, to see if they process.
This one has, it is online, and I just don't know how long.
Because if it's gonna push this, that's the requirements.
Right,
for the program.
oh yeah,
Talk to
will
the
you,
county.
yeah, oh no, I got an extension.
I want to say a month, and if we don't. If we find out it gets longer, we'll extend it again.
Well, I was kind of thinking more like 10 days. but
Yeah, I was
I'm-
thinking so we can approve it by the next meeting.
Yeah, but I'm not sure how long it takes, let me see.
Let's do 10 days, and if they need more time, we can. When's our next meeting? 2 weeks.
The 24th.
So why don't we do 13 days from now, and if we find that if the bidder or bidders cannot register in that time, we can extend that to the next meeting.
Okay.
2 weeks.
So do you guys feel like,
It'd have to be like 6:30 when we start the meeting first.
Or the day
They
before.
started. No.
For what?
It would
What-
close if it was the day before, because the bid has a time deadline.
yeah, if we can't extend it, we have
We
to
can't
reject
extend it,
bids.
we have
and
to reject
rebid.
bids and rebid.
But, I mean, I guess
Should we set
Can't
it?
extend if you don't have a bid.
we could extend it if we don't have a bid, yeah.
Yeah, so.
So if they can't get their application.
And have the proof of, yeah, then we would know, yeah. Okay,
Just what do we set the
So-
deadline for our next?
do you guys, is
But we
20,
don't have to accept all the bids if,
yeah,
so let's do that.
so is the day before our meeting, good for you guys? Enough time to look and try to make a decision that,
Yes, yeah,
I-
hopefully the same bidder just does the bids it.
With an additional form already.
Yeah, with one more form, like hopefully we'll.
and what, you're looking at the timeline, Michael?
Well, I don't know what anything's gonna cost. 2 weeks, their entire proposal could need to be redone. So. I think it depends if they come back with the same proposal and they're good to hold to those numbers, but I don't know what.
Well, if they need to increase them, then they'll increase them.
No, I'm saying more, are we gonna have enough time if it changes? But yeah, it's fine. Let's do it then. We can address it.
I think 2 weeks.
I think, given what I saw for the form, I hope that it would be. So. Okay, so, and then is our time frame in there? Yeah, we would still have enough time, because that's when we were gonna do the contract, okay. So that is the 23rd, so we should change. The bid.
Do you want to vote to reject the bid? Because
Oh, yeah, Zoe made a motion, we didn't have a second.
Yeah.
Okay,
Second? Did we second?
No,
Uh,
a second.
Oh, I seconded that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, abstained, motion carries. So then we'll do I'll make a motion to,
Does this have to be an RFP or is it a?
RFB. I'll make a motion to rebid the seasonal restroom facility big package with the additional requirement that the bidder
Submit appropriate forms as required by law from the department.
um issue proof of registration with the New York State Department of Labor as a public works contractor. With a bid open date of April 11th, 2025.
Oh. Today's the 11th, tomorrow's the
Tomorrow's the 11th.
Make it today.
23rd. I think you said.
I said, oh, sorry, I meant releasing the bid,
Oh, okay.
publishing the bid.
Oh, okay, sorry.
Of April 11th, 2025. And a deadline to receive the sealed bids of April 23rd, 2025 at 3 p.m.
Yeah.
At 3 p.m.
Sorry, I confused you.
Second.
And for town clerk to circulate this.
And for the town clerk to circulate notice. And Charlotte seconds. Okay, any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, abstained, motion carries. Okay. That really knocked my, the wind out of me when I saw that, so. Okay. Charlotte, do you want to give an update for you kind of already did.
Kind of, yeah, I'll give a little bit more of a clear one now. So, the community, our Housing Advisory Committee and the town board, have committed to attempting to get the RETT, which is a real estate transfer tax similar to the conservation transfer tax that came before us last year to go on the ballot for permissive referendum for the town to vote on if we allow it. The similar process where there's a certain level, like the median sale, and anything above that gets a 1% and then that tax on it to the buyer. And then that money, that 1% goes into a fund that then the town board, we have a specific document that will be made that tells us what we are going to spend that money on, but it has to be spent for housing. It can be used in different ways, like being grant funds, and we'd be able to do like repair grants for people or weatherization grants for people with the funds, things like that, or for housing projects. So we are going to have, but none of that is going to happen without any community input, and we want to hear from people what your housing challenges have been, especially from those local locals that are trying to stay and generational ones that are getting sold out of the area. We're going to have panelists from different backgrounds, some from Pattern for Progress, which is a big housing site, some from the county housing department. We're also going to have a couple other locals who are going to be there to discuss their struggles of trying to stay and get housing in the area. So all are welcome. We're gonna have 2 of those events. One is gonna be April 27th, which is a Sunday, and that one is from
That's 3 to 5.
3 to 5. Thank you. Sorry, we changed the time to 5 times. And then the other one is gonna be on May 7th from
6 to
6 to
8.
8, from 6 to 8 PM. Both are gonna be held here at the Harold Living Community Center. And like I said, I really encourage anyone who can come out to please come out to them. There's gonna be a panel with a discussion at first, but then there's gonna be more of a breakout where we wanna hear feedback, and it's gonna be a back and forth and kind of community discussion forum on the struggles of housing in our area. So yeah, thank you.
Will that be Zoom as well or no?
Yes.
Yeah, we're also gonna be zooming it for if you can't come in person, but if you wanna join in, we probably won't be able to Zoom people, participate over Zoom, but you can definitely view and watch and listen in.
Also for the board, we are going to do a postcard mailing promoting the event, but also we have a housing survey that didn't get like a lot of response, so we're gonna try to get more response and also get people onto the town website, put the survey there, and then promote these forums with the postcard mailing, so that'll be going out like early next week.
Yeah, so keep an eye out for my postcard coming, Jill. There will be a QR code on it that you can take out of the phone and just scan it and it'll bring you to, we're gonna have a survey page set up on the town website. For we wanna do more public engagement, things like this and get more feedback, so this is the first one we're gonna do on there, but we're gonna make a survey page. So if we do more community-wide surveys that you guys can fill out, so we can get some feedback, some wider feedback in town. We're hoping that we'll post them there and stuff. You can bookmark that page once you scan it.
Does the board have any questions about those events?
You want me to add them right now?
Oh, you could actually,
What did you say, 27th and what?
the May
May
7th,
27th the time?
3 to 5 and 6 to 8. So I thought we should have a quick discussion about the noise ordinance. And I thought Michael and I could update where we're at in terms of drafting something, and get any feedback from the board. So Michael, do you feel prepared to give? I feel like I've been talking a lot in this meeting, so if you'd like to synthesize where we're at with our draft,
Oh, I don't know if I was prepared for that.
I can do it. I just.
We can also table, we're gonna see it at the workshop.
Well, the main thing is there are these two sort of, we're not in agreement. So,
Disagreement.
huh?
We're not in disagreement.
But one of us thinks we should incorporate a permit process for like events. I feel like just having an ordinance that has time limits on it is enough, and that creating a permit process, I think, is complicated. So I just wanted to get input from the board. Should we continue to explore both and have like just a couple of options and kind of see where they go? Or
All of our departments are understaffed and overstretched. I don't think we should add another permitting process to the laws if we don't have.
So
to.
what conditions would a permit apply? Yeah, I mean, if there's a special event.
Why don't you give us an A and B? And then we can workshop both.
Well, I think the idea of
I
a
like
permit
options.
is. So it gives you a mechanism of enforcement if there's a consistent violator that has told you when they're having events. And by the way, I don't necessarily support a permit process. I think it's something that.
Sorry, but no, it's fine.
I'm open to the board considering all options. The idea would be that if there was a commercial space that is having, because one of the pieces of feedback we had was it wasn't just 2 nights a week, it was 5 nights a week of live music that was going past the potential time. If there's a permit process, then there would be potential limits, like you can have live events 104 nights a week. And it would be known when those events were happening, because you would have to provide some kind of advanced feedback. And then we could schedule to have enforcement available on those particular nights that would be able to monitor those things. So that was the idea. And then in turn, if there is someone that applies for the permit, gets the permit, and consistently is violating the permit, it's something that can be taken away. And there can be a record of that, as opposed to a general noise ordinance, which I also think is fine if we just, as some people are suggesting, have a period of time after 10 p.m.
So are you talking about permits outside of the normal approved general hours?
No, it would still be for within the general hours. It would just be notifying your intent to have live music. Has to up to the time. And we could talk about having it so that you could extend beyond that time, but.
I mean, if their general hours where noise is permitted, or amplified noise is permitted, I don't think I would think that a permit on top of that would be. I don't know what sort of value it's adding. If they were to have special events that might be outside of those normally approved general hours. I could see some value to it.
That's another possibility.
I'm just gonna play devil's advocate here and just note that the last permit that we put into law. As in the short-term rental permits, we have not had the greatest success of follow through and enforcement on and the reviews on them being enforced and safety features happening, so I think permitting is not.
Yeah, there's
The easiest route for it. I think if it's universal, I think we had a lot of review here too that said to make it universal, don't make it a permitting process where there's some type of judgment or decision made in it. It's the same for every business. All the same, that's the only way to do it without having or allowing a chance for bias in it.
Yeah,
If we
and
permit it, there's a chance for bias, which is what. a
Well,
concern that
I
was
think
brought up is.
no matter what,
Yeah.
there's a chance for
Yeah,
bias
absolutely.
because of enforcement,
Mhm.
and that's why we have to be, that's why we really have to think about the enforcement piece of it, because it's also, as a lot of people brought up, like what I've heard from other towns that have noise ordinances is that they cause a lot of issues because they can't enforce them because of staffing. And that causes a lot of problems because then people are just upset. So I think that's why we really have to consider having making sure it's narrow enough that it's like, isn't gonna be 100 calls a night, but it's narrow enough that we know which uses it applies to, commercial uses, and exactly what noise type, which is amplified noise. But I had the same, if a permit isn't gonna give you any special privileges, if we are just gonna have a blanket law, I feel like it's just very confusing, because then if you're not having recurring events, you don't have to get a permit, but if you are, you do, and I feel like it opens us up for.
Can we make it sound?
Huh?
What?
Can we make it?
I mean, look, the other option, right? So there are, the enforcement problem is gonna continue to be the problem. Like, how are we going to enforce this? Now, we have commercial events facilities that we've received complaints about. And we could start with enforcing existing site plans and try to do something with that. And in the meantime, these properties that people have identified, we as the board or the town could notify them and say,
We did that
We-
last week.
and it was not effective.
No, we did it last week.
Okay, so if we could monitor that and see if it's effective, and if it's not effective, we have this in the queue that we could address. Because we know what parcels, what commercial uses we've been receiving complaints about. So I think that was kind of Hoppy's point. We can go as the board, because if they're not listening neighbor to neighbor, we could formally say, we've received X complaints. And continue to do that and see if we don't need to enforce something like this, and then utilize enforcement on the commercial events facilities.
What we
Yeah,
did
that's-
last week is the code enforcement office sent friendly. Friendly reminder, it's the start of the season. We know you do outdoor music. Here's your site plan approval. Here's the conditions of operation that you have. We will be enforcing these this year. So the season hasn't really started yet. It was just ahead to make sure that everyone has what their approvals are and what they need to do to be compliant. So we are trying to do those proactive measures. The one thing that short-term rentals would fall under this, and like that's the one where, we didn't send letters to short-term rentals because it's the renters at the short-term rental that are violating, not, you know what I mean? Ultimately, the permit holder is the one in violation, but that is like,
But also, if you're not sending the short-term rental operator, the owner, notice that the town's looking at this, and
yeah,
then you're not putting them on notice that you're paying attention to what their renters are,
right.
but what nuisance they're causing.
Yeah, I do think
We
we
can
can send
send-
it to them. It's a business. They're not.
Because there you have
houses,
leverage, you have
they're businesses when
you
they're
have the
STRs.
ability to refuse the renewal of the permit if there's a consistent.
Yeah, I'll have to look
pattern.
at the, it's possible that, I'll have to look at the law to see what we would put in there, but.
Most of our neighborhood, like, at least, like, I would say, I think 50% of the neighborhood neighbors that you'll see during the next season are gonna be mostly Airbnbs, which tells us that, like, every year during the reports, that it's a lot of noise.
So cut
fire,
that off
type
at the-
of thing.
Cut cut it off at the pass and tell the owners that. No.
There's a lot that.
Well, if they don't respond, then,
The
then your
Yeah.
recourse is to not renew their rental permit.
Yeah. So. It sounds like we are keeping on this proactive approach. I'll talk to the office about issuing a slightly differently worded letter for short-term rental permit holders. And I do want to take a look at the law because it could be that a pretty straightforward amendment to that law would also allow us to revoke the permit for repeated violations for this specifically, but also they're supposed to post notices and like we might also require that there be a posting about that type of thing. But I guess it sounds like lukewarm reception to the permit idea. Sorry, I'm
I mean,
voting.
on the permit thing, I mean, the only,
Just putting ideas out there.
Just give us both, give us an.
I know, we can give you both. We actually have both.
It's-
like
We
it's a-
actually have
it's in
both.
the draft.
Yeah,
I like
no,
that
but
idea.
the permit, if it's duplicating what's already permitted by the law,
right,
then it's an extra step that
right.
could be avoided. But if you're allowing
A special
a
event.
special event,
Yeah.
an extraordinary
Yeah.
special occasion where they go past what is normally permitted, then I can see making a permit as being a means of providing an exception for those
Right,
special events.
right. Yeah, that is, one thing that I thought of is that might be another, so the noise ordinance would be a standalone, but we did delete commercial events facility from the code because we didn't feel like it. We saw the problems that law created, but we did that with the intent of working towards something that would allow special events, because we don't want to not have, that industry. We don't want to keep, there are, some of like the
Yeah.
venues, I think it's
It's
good.
part of the tourist
Yeah.
industry. Yeah, it's
So,
part of our tourism.
That's
just needs to be
another
done
thing that we can
responsibly.
consider is we do want to work on replacing that with something as well.
Yeah, we could do just special event permits and then base it off the number of people or that type of thing. if you want.
Yeah,
Scale
there's a
this
lot of
to-
model
yeah, there's a bunch of
laws
them.
about that are like that.
Yeah, I'm happy to look into that a little too, to see about, scaling for events, like special event permits.
Yeah, I just think we have to understand the scope of the problem, because we've heard people say there's music going five nights a week all through the summer. We have issues with, seasonal uses.
Well, now that we have a complaint log, we can monitor that.
Yeah, we have a little bit more.
There's only one night every year where I hear music till midnight, and I'm fine with that. But they never invite me.
Better than 7.
But,
Yeah, next is good.
but yeah, I mean, I'm mindful of people that feel like it's going on constantly throughout the summer, every night. If it's going past 10, yeah, I could see that being hard to deal with.
What if the board does like a 2-month window where now that you've sent these letters out to the commercial businesses, you have code enforcement, got a plan in place, and just see how it goes. If they can even tell you, like, we are not able to enforce these days a week, we can't even do all the
Yeah.
coverage, and we are still getting complaints. If we do that for like the first 2 months of their music season, you will get a feel of if you're gonna be able to enforce it or not anyway.
Yeah.
Maybe you can figure out some of the issues in between in that timeframe.
Food for thought. We're gonna do this at workshop, right?
Yeah, we'll
Yeah,
continue
I
this
think
and I'll
There's
update
gonna be a process.
on the letters. On that though, if you guys are okay, I kind of want to do a resolution on the fly.
Do that.
Pertaining to this, one of our staff in the office requested additional hours and I was like, oh, I'll put that on our next agenda, but I feel like we should just do that now. So I'd like to make a motion that the Rochester Town Board authorizes the zoning coordinator position to increase to 40 hours a week from 35.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed, abstained, motion carries, but Charlotte was absent. Okay, got that. Okay. I'll let her know. Okay, I haven't gotten any word back about that 5-year plan. But I'll let you know, like I said, though, the other day, I was like, every week it's something. And, our buildings and maintenance personnel today looked at me and said, Erin, I really don't want to upset you, but I think we need to replace the hot water heater. So it really is something every week. Huh? Oh, the town hall. And the highway garage. I know that, I was like, we have hot water. Cause I just washed my hands. So. But, anyway, it is everything every week, like literally.
So what's the plan on that? We're waiting for the 5-year repair list?
I was waiting to hear back to see if they ever produced that, CPL, who did the building conditions
Okay.
survey for us. It was in the RFP.
Right.
And it's not in any of my documents or what Mike sent to the board. Yeah, he sent us like a PowerPoint in 2021. And then in his files, there was like an Excel spreadsheet that I shared with the board, but I mean, I really I think my gut plan is the priorities are replacing and repairing infrastructure at the transfer station and looking to build a new town hall building. And I think those to me are like long, they're going to take longer, but those are the priorities. And in the meantime, I think we're going to have office trailer. We're going to have some solutions for things like records, like before we can, that construction is done, but just,
How much of our records are digitized?
Only our building department till 2020. That's the only thing. But all of our assessor records will get digitized. with
as part of the
reval,
reval.
So that'll be good.
Yeah.
And our focus is to finish code.
I thought, didn't you go through a whole thing where you sent a bunch of stuff?
That was through 2020.
Okay.
Yeah. But there's the planning, planning and zoning records are in a compromised storage space. And those haven't even been touched.
Right. That's the plan, is to finish up building department, move on to planning, which I'm hoping we will be starting in the next couple weeks.
Yeah.
Scanner.
Yeah, with the new scanner,
With the
we're
new
gonna
scanner,
hire
the
a
new
new
person.
person.
When's that coming?
I gave you the contract, right?
Sign it before the tariffs
Sorry,
get,
it's been-
Double check.
Huh?
sign it and pay for it
Yeah.
before the tariffs come in.
Right.
Oh, yeah. Oh, you're right. I might have
Where's
missed
it made?
that.
Where's it made?
It's Toshiba, right?
Pretty much.
So. It could be that at our workshop meeting, we just need to devote. I think we have like a few major topics for the workshop meeting, but maybe we just need to have like 4 things that we focus on. That being one of them.
Yeah, like more like heavy centered items that we spend like
Yeah.
solid chunks on and then
Yeah,
later work.
so. The other thing I wanted to. Are amendments to the discussion items. This was, Alexis asked me to add this to an agenda. The having an event at our Route 209 property, which I think that's the wrong address, actually. It's the property that we refer to as the watershed preserve. Yeah, that's like
Technically, same symbol?
that's
Mhm.
something, 6,900 or 6,600.
It's a 209?
Thousands, yeah, I don't know why I put that.
And it's two numbers, because it's, remember the sign, there's a dash.
Okay.
It's a 209
I
address?
wanna say it's like
Mhm.
604.
It's like 6041 to 604 or something. Go back to the.
So, but I wanted to have this as a discussion. Because I've always been hesitant to allow like open public events at that property. I'd like to give just a little bit of background. In 2020, when Chris Hewitt was on the board, he really wanted to explore having a public park at this parcel. We have a 68-acre parcel, I think. Half of it is the solar. And we have a cell tower lease there. And then there's about 30 acres that it's vacant. And Chris saw a lot of value in it and really was excited about the idea of making a small park that was next to the solar operation as this, kind of showing what you could do. And it is a very nice parcel. There's important water stream comes through. There's some old growth forests. We're doing a ecological study in May. We're having a expert come and do a plant survey, which
Species survey.
yeah. And so it is like an interesting parcel, but we haven't made it a park yet. And there's the board had authorized the ECC to do some preliminary trail work there. So there's been a little bit of trail work that's been done. But in order to cross the stream, we'd have to get a DEC permit to do even a footbridge. So there's, to access the whole property by trail, there would need to be a lot of trail work and trail building. We had sort of scaled back to say, that we'll give the ECC the ability to access the property for research purposes. And just because it isn't a park yet. So right now it's just a vacant, as far as our insurance is concerned, it's a vacant parcel. Every other public space we have a way of using the space. So if the ECC wanted to have an event at the town park, I would not even get involved in that, because they would just reserve the town park and they would publicize the event and they would have the event. But in this case, I wanted to bring it to the board because when it was requested, I wanted to know what the nature of an Earth Day event would be. And I have to say, I feel bad because Alexis isn't here to represent the ECC. I found I didn't really get a response other than there might be some trail work happening, and then they're promoting currently an event where there'll be chainsawing. And it's being promoted publicly. And I had said yesterday, I think it was absolutely not. So I wanted to put it to the board, do we want to authorize a small public event at this parcel? And if so, can we put some parameters around it just to ensure that To me, it's as the person who it is ultimately responsible for all of this, I'm like, we have to make sure that nobody's trying to access the cell tower that day. You know, there's more coordination to just, you know, and I understand that, you know, that's maybe sounds like a lot of concern, but these are the types of things when you're thinking about risk that.
But they
you have
haven't
to-
defined what is exactly.
That, not to me, I have not gotten, other than it being a small event where they don't think many members of the public will show up. Well, they'll do a walk and some trail work.
It's the it's the liability from people using chainsaws.
That I did correspond with our insurance company and our broker was like, well, if people are walking and, you know, hiking, that's fine. You should let everyone know that it's at their own risk. We do have coverage for, damages, but.
You don't have coverage for volunteers using chainsaws.
Well, also, the idea, I mean, trail work, there's no trails.
There's
There's like a,
there's not.
There's no trails that have been made. There's maybe areas you can move through, but like the town board hasn't decided to make trails. Or that we want there to be trails there, so I think it's, I mean, if there's an intent to make that into a community space or a park, then that's something we should talk about as a board, talk to the community about.
yeah, it opens up a big, I'm sorry, I interrupted.
Yeah, no, it's fine,
It opens up a bigger, couple months ago. When I was feeling very ambitious with policy creation, I drafted this, sort of boards and commissions guide because, you know, I feel like we've lost a little bit of the glue of like, you know, public bodies have to notice meetings and they have to have agendas and they have to post minutes and they have, you know, there's laws that say what they're supposed to do. And, you know, there's some independence, but there is no budgetary authority. And we should be setting direction. And so for something like this, it gets into the area of like, you know, the board has not said, you know, we want there to be a park there. Will you guys, that hasn't happened. So I think that it opens that up a little bit for me, but I also, there's a lot of interest among that committee in this parcel. And I also don't want to just like squash.
But I think if we don't know exactly what they want to do, it's kind of difficult for us to give consent or approval for it because, so I would just ask for more detail on what they're doing. I think in principle, if it's just going to go and look at the property and take a wander and on a one-time event that they normally don't have access to, that's fine. I don't have a problem with that. But if, as Michael says, they're going to be cutting trails through the property and using power equipment and things like that, that's a little different type of thing. And I think it's up to them to be able to articulate to us what they want to do.
I agree with that.
Also, we commissioned an ecological study, but it's not been submitted yet. We shouldn't be cutting anything down.
I don't think that anyone from the public should be going to that park,
Property.
property that they call a park,
Preserve, they call it.
Oh, yes. I think Chris called it a park. Preserve, but yeah.
I've called it a preserve too. I mean,
I don't think anyone should be going there. When was the last time any of you guys went there?
2 years ago.
I went 4 months with John. And unless they have already cleared trails, even for the entire committee to go there for an Earth Day event, I think it puts us at a huge liability. Cause there's no trails cleared there. There's no cleared, like I've grown up in the woods my entire life and you can tell when there's a trail that people have walked through often or not in the woods. And when I was getting hit by almost every branch that John walked through in front of me behind him, that's not a cleared trail. And when you have to bring cutters in with you to walk somewhere it's not cleared and that's not. It's very nice when you're down by the water, don't get me wrong, but. I find it to be unsafe, especially if it's the public and not even one of our volunteers going there. Our volunteers are always covered under. I also don't support the idea of it becoming a park or somewhere that the public has access to. There's a solar field, there's a cell
I mean,
tower.
I'd just like to know exactly what they,
Yeah, Alexis had sent me let me just see if this is enough for us.
Like if the community wanted to go and with like hand clippers, walking clear.
Well, I was thinking, I think we could authorize something that is limited in scope and it says, you know, that it, for the purposes of like walking and exploration and, sort of just leave it at that. No power tools, no, no.
I also don't want the public to go there and then think that they're allowed to go. Anytime.
You said it's already something they're publicizing.
Yes, they are already. publicized.
So
You wanna say no because of that?
I will say no because, not because of that, but because I think this is, the ECC does amazing things. I think the tire pull is a great activity. I think building pollinator gardens, and there's like a lot that can be done. This is something that we as a board need to agree, and I think there should be public input if you want to change the status or what we're doing in that parcel. So, I mean, if they want to go at their own risk, I think it should be like with someone from the town there. And I like, just be walking around.
Yeah, I'm worried, like, I was shocked when I went to the park. Having lived here my whole life, or preserved to the parcel, when I went to the parcel, I was shocked at how close I could get to the cell tower. I've never known that you could just drive up to that cell phone tower, and to me alone, that's just dangerous. Like anyone could hop that fence, no one's gonna get stopped by that to try to climb it, I was raised with things. But yeah, I find it to be a risk if we start opening it up and making. Oh, that he was even advertised already, like I'm
So-
sorry for the public.
All right, so let's just talk about like what we wanna see. Good night. Let's just talk about what we wanna see. Do, we have previously authorized the ECC members to go to that parcel.
I'm fine with that, I prefer.
So
not
in
open.
terms of like. Opening, inviting the public to that parcel, you two are saying you are not comfortable with making that decision tonight.
Yes,
And so for next steps, what I need to do is tell them they need to take down those promotional materials and they're not allowed to invite members of the public to the parcel. Is that what you're,
yeah, you should not.
and then if we want to work towards what needs to happen to figure this out, there needs to be a clear articulation.
My,
Yeah.
oh, really? I must have sat on it and turned my car.
Be nice and warm. Because it's still apparently 40 degrees out. Yeah, and I think, you know what, if we want to have people sign waivers or something, like maybe that's something we could consider, but it's just.
But you don't wanna authorize anything like that tonight, is what you're saying. You wanna take time to figure that out.
I mean, I think we need to know what the scope is, what they're doing. It's not, I don't think it's unreasonable.
Yeah, what I got was they would be doing a walk and trail clearing with tools, and that's when I was like, what tools? And it wasn't until I was talking to Alexis that I found out that yes, indeed, they were planning on using chainsaws, and then this afternoon
I saw that they had posted flyers on social media and an email inviting people and telling them about the chainsaw.
Yeah, yeah,
So-
there's a process breakdown too.
Um,
Are they not doing a tire pull this year?
that's usually
Oh, that's
later in the
year, that's
season.
why.
Yeah,
Till the water's warmer.
Should we maybe have,
yeah.
make sure you maybe have their chair come and talk to us at the next meeting about it? The park in general, or preserve.
Well,
things,
next
the
meeting
parts
or
of-
in the future, Michael Gage is coming, put the correspondence in the current meeting folder, correspondence folder. So that's gonna be in May. So he's gonna be doing his survey. And then he wanted to meet with me and anyone else that wants to meet with him at the property. And then he issues his full report after that. So that, I mean, I feel like we are, I mean, it would be hard to really know exactly what to do until we get that type of study. But we could invite the ECC maybe to like our May meeting. Huh? It is, it's on the 19th,
That's next weekend.
but I think the event they were promoting was for the 26th of April. So, yeah, if we're tabling this, we're canceling. We're telling them they can't have a public event.
Yeah, they can have them with the ECC there like they have in the past of just ECC. I'm fine with just ECC members. I'm comfortable with that. There are volunteers. They've done events like that there in the past. The same with no tools rule. That's just no bars. But yeah, I'm not okay with the public having access to that parcel.
I feel like if we let the UCC go there now, then if the public shows up, the public's gonna show up at the town's library.
Yeah, that's true. They
I
are.
would ask
Well, we,
not to do it.
I would say our insurance company is comfortable with members of the public being on that parcel. But it's the idea of, to me, of that type of like chainsawing and things. To me, well, I hadn't corresponded with him, but he said like walking around kind of thing.
Yeah, but they haven't been to their steep slopes, like you're walking along hillsides, it's wet.
When I went there, they were, John,
Yeah,
you
so-
know, the trail so that seniors can make it through, and I was like, no senior is me.
I think we can, so are you saying you're saying you wanna make a new. You wanna say that the ECC members are not allowed to go on that parcel?
No, I don't wanna say that. I wanna say in terms of, like, now that it's been a publicized event. If we say they're allowed to be there, the public shows up, they're not gonna turn people away. They're not gonna be there to enforce it. If somebody falls down a hill, and gets hurt, decides they wanna sue the town. Like, we're liable. I don't think it's. Talk about it for other events. Like, it doesn't have to be on Earth Day. It's not on Earth Day now. I mean,
Can you let me know what you're asking for the action to be? I'm sorry.
to ask them to cancel the event, to remove the notices about the event and cancel the event for the 26th.
Including ECC members. you're
Yeah.
saying. Okay,
I mean, that's what I would recommend. But
I mean, I'm okay with that. I don't think the public should be there, and I agree with Michael's point that if we even allow the ECC to still go there, since they already advertised it before we approved it, they're not gonna. I wouldn't turn someone away if they came all the way out to my event.
Can we send them
you
a
know,
liability form that anyone who goes there, including ECC members signs? And just, we don't want people there. Well, they're sending agreements.
I just don't know if that's enforceable.
Yeah.
I think without being able to ask Mary Lou about that, that the only option that we have for tonight would be to say personally, without being able to have a legally approved other route for a waiver or something like that.
I mean,
I'm
I
still not
think,
comfortable.
yeah, I mean. Yeah, I think what I was coming in kind of thinking we could say that they have to have people sign a waiver and that they can't use power tools and that, you know, it has to be a limited time frame. But if you guys are like more, if the two of you are leaning more towards cancel it, then I'm not gonna put that forward because the, you know, you're happy.
Well, it depends for me on what the two of you think, because we know Alexis would, I think, be supportive.
Well, she's not here.
But if you're comfortable with that,
I mean, I don't know. I think, like I said, it opens up a whole thing, but in terms of like, you know,
I mean, we're 2-2 now, and
I would like to move on if you guys are, that's why I was saying, you seemed firmly wanting to not allow this to happen. And I just want to be able to communicate what the next steps are. Which I can do, but if you're on the fence, and I guess that I'm not getting a clear, we just need a clear.
I guess what my position is, I don't have a problem with them going there. I don't have a problem with them going with a pair of clippers to make it easier to walk through and access. I don't have a problem with it. I don't like chainsaws for volunteers.
Yes.
Or any sort of power tools. Unless at this time, I mean, if they
Yeah.
come up with a plan in the future with everything else, then that's something we could consider separately. I'm a little ambivalent about them having members of the public there, but I also don't think that they're gonna get a lot of members of the public there. So I think that it's not really, they're not gonna get 20 people to show up. In any case, I'd probably want them to sign a waiver,
Yeah,
whether they're ECC members or members of the public. And I don't really feel strongly either way, whether they're allowed or not, but I don't really see a huge problem with them, with people going there on a low impact stroll through the preserve or whatever. And I don't know if there's significance to that special date or whether there's something that they could postpone.
yeah, I'd be more comfortable if it were postponed. You know, and then let's figure out what we want. Because we're gonna have to write the waiver. It's more stuff for us to do. I think you talked to Mary Lou about this. We didn't,
I haven't, I've only talked
Just
to our
make sure.
insurance company.
because they don't know what the property looks like. They can just tell us what our coverage is. They can't assess risk.
I mean, I told so. Okay, so you guys want me to ask them to postpone their event until the board can feel comfortable about parameters around having public events?
Yeah, well, I think they should postpone the event, and then if they really want to have something that's not as chainsaw-y, come with a proposal to the board and we can revisit it.
I was gonna say, I'd like to at least see a proposal first.
So you wanna know like number of people
Number of people, timeframe,
What they're doing.
what they're doing.
and more than we're gonna clear the trail to the old growth tree. You want more than that?
But is that what they've told us so far?
That's what I have in an email. Yeah.
I'd also want to know what steps they're going to take to make sure that people aren't jumping over the fence to the solar farm and the
So
So-
that's how.
So is it ecologically sound to be clearing stuff to the old growth tree that people want to? You know
Look, I
what, you
feel
know what
like they
hurts
should
old growth
wait.
trees is people walking them the root systems.
Yeah, I honestly feel like they should wait until after we get the study done.
That's right, that's,
To me, it doesn't, especially if it's more than like. I think when I was there, John said it couldn't be more than 4 people at a time because you disturb too much of the ground.
Well, I think John, I think has like knows, but again,
Yeah,
like
he
you're
has- he has
saying,
a
we don't,
forestry
all I
license,
have
that's-
was I think I learned more on the Facebook post. Okay, so, all right, I will communicate back to them. Was there something else that from our agenda that I thought we should discuss?
Training for constables.
Yeah.
For constables.
So that was an amendment. Okay, so this, just a couple of things that have come up. And I wanted to get board.
Gonna go. Thank you.
Okay,
very much.
thanks.
Thanks,
Good night.
I wanted to get to board input here. Hmm? So number one, we are hiring, we're looking to hire more constables. They currently cover court security. So that is our court the justices, it is our job to provide for the security of the court. The justices have asked that we have one officer on duty during open hours and 2 officers on duty for all court nights. So we had this has been an ongoing sort of chronic issue that comes up every year where the justices have come to the town and been like, you're not providing the security we're asking for. We're getting into that again. The court nights are covered. We have coverage on the nights, but we are having difficulty filling our shifts and having it be you know, a regular, like predictable, no, it's sort of like right now, we're like week to week.
What hours are they open that are not court hours?
8:30 to 4.
Every
Oh,
day?
court night, it's 8:30 to 4.
Every day.
Oh, no, Monday through Thursday. Yeah. So there's just been some staffing changes recently, so we're looking to hire. What my goals for hiring is that we have 4 positions available. That we would hire 1 or 2 people that would be assigned to the days that we've been having difficulty with. And then the 2 to 3 other hires would be assigned to the patrols, like the enforcement that we've been talking about. So that's what Rich and I are working on. We have like a list of applicants. I've pre-screened applicants and then we're I think we're meeting tomorrow to talk about scheduling interviews.
How many constables positions do we have?
10.
10.
Yeah.
And those are part-time?
So they are part-time, non-scheduled. And so this is my shift requirement. So I can't find anywhere where there's a work requirement. And I know that in the past, I had heard, that, you know, some people will stay on appointed and not work for a few months even, just because the way this department is set up is that everyone has a full-time job or even another job. This might be their second or third job. So we don't have a shift requirement, but I think it might be good to think about having
So
that.
how many like full-time equivalents or how many constable hours do you need a week
So it's what we have budgeted is the 28 hours plus the 2 court night hours, so that's 28 plus 8. And then we have 15 hours a week that is for our administrative constable. And then it's the equivalent of 8 hours a week of patrol for another person.
So you're talking, what is that? Aside from 2.
So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 8-hour shifts plus court night.
So that's 48.
Yeah.
Plus supervisor time.
Well, that's the 15 hours a week. So that, I didn't count that in.
Right.
Yeah. And no constable can work more than 20 hours a week. By civil service. See, I know, I was like, maybe I could find someone that wants to work 28 hours a week. And it could be their job, but we can't do that.
Could do court officer.
We do have court officers, but that is it's a different, totally different.
But you could hire somebody for 28 hours a week as a court officer.
I don't know, I haven't really looked into it.
Yeah, that's what I was wondering. I was like, can we max them out at 20 hours as constables and then have them
No.
do
It can't be.
court nine?
Can't be-
Not unless we
Oh,
combine
that's right,
the
they can't be
jobs.
two positions,
Yeah.
that's right, I forgot.
Well, so I think it would be, again, if we have 10 people on staff, we can't make a requirement that everyone works 8 hours a week. But I do think, because we
You can
haven't,
make a requirement that they work at least 4 hours every 2 weeks.
Hmm?
You can make a requirement
Yes,
that they
yeah.
have to work at least, say, 4 hours or 8 hours every 2 weeks as a condition.
We could just
Yeah.
make it a monthly one too, just like 10 hours a month, have to work at least 10 hours, because then it's.
Are we having problems scheduling, or are we having problems finding people?
I think it's scheduling. It's both. I think it's, because it's at will, so it's like, okay, we have this weekend thing, and then because there's no requirement, like everyone can say no. And then it just the enforcement doesn't happen. So it's striking a balance between recognizing that this is a part-time thing and you can't plan your life around.
Can we make a requirement that it's like 8 hours every 2 weeks, including it plus 1 weekend a month?
Yeah.
Okay.
What was it, 8 hours plus what?
Plus 1 weekend,
8 hours a month plus 1 weekend.
or whatever the number is.
Yeah, okay. I like
So
that
there's a-
type of structure.
So that so nobody gets stuck with the weekends unless they really want to, but they share the pain equally, if weekends are considered less desirable.
So I will run this by Rich, and then we've been talking about, we do need to have like a department meeting, but he and I have been talking about this a little bit, and we can crunch the numbers. And then I can bring that back to you guys, and then we would implement that as a requirement of the position.
Do we have an ad out now for constable?
Yes, we do. Yeah, I got a lot of applicants actually.
Really?
Yeah,
That have the certification.
some of them could be appointed. So this whole thing both the position became a competitive civil service position. And the
DOJ.
they changed the training requirement. So it used to be any peace officer, basic peace officer training. So if you were a correctional officer, you could be appointed as a constable and be on duty. But they changed that. So the course is the basic peace officer course. So we used to employ a lot of corrections officers, but now, unless they also have the basic peace officer training that's active, they have to go through the 6-week training course. So, and it can be good to have that because Rich is the instructor, and it is a way of like adding, onboarding people. But for like the court, for example, I would like to find someone who has the basic peace officer training. So we have a mix of applicants for that.
Are they armed in the courthouse?
Yes. Okay, so that's good direction. I'm glad you guys are supportive of that, and we'll hash out the details. I think it'll be something along those lines. The other thing I wanted to bring up, I had a request to bring this to the board. That we typically, our trainings are done, we have trainings that are in-house because, Rich is an instructor and offers an annual course. So a lot of the re-qualifying courses are like offered. I did have a request from one of our staff to request the board authorize as that we would be the agency that they would go to a specific 2-day training. That doesn't cost anything, but they're requesting that we pay them for the time that they're there. And just open that up to the other, to open that training.
As
up.
opposed to Rich doing the training?
Yeah, and I think I think it's, so there's two things. I'm very supportive of trainings and I want us to, I think it's good, like, professional development. This is a very specific active shooter training, that I put the correspondence in our, where did I put that? Maybe it's
But it
just.
doesn't cost us anything.
It would, so this is the
The
thing,
time.
it costs the time, which is more than most people are working currently.
Yeah.
So I think that's part of why
How long is it happening?
it's 2 days.
And they're not even working. They're not all working 8 hours a month.
Correct. Well, 8 hours, well, usually more than 8 hours a month, but,
Not as an executive, so I can ask.
well, we can't talk about the
Questions?
training if there's something related to personnel.
Yeah, it's personnel, like.
But in terms of this specifically, I think we don't have to decide tonight, though they're like, well, the training's gonna fill up, but I do think it's a little bit more complicated, like the idea of having a minimum shift requirement and then like, yeah, maybe there are some trainings we could like sponsor as the agency. I like to offer that, professional development. But
No, I agree, I don't
but
disagree.
I would say like if everyone went, that would be like a lot of our hours for our staffing budget.
So I think what we really need to do is develop a consistent needs of training. And I could see doing that if there were an agreement on how many hours a week and, covering weekends or whatever the need is
Yeah,
met.
right.
And, I'm all for training, especially something like that, which, God forbid, you never, ever make use of that kind of training, but
And that kind of training too is like really useful for public events, which
yeah.
we would want those individuals to then make a commitment to
Be
be,
two schools in our town.
yeah,
Well, we also want to make a commitment that we're not paying somebody to go to a course where they're gonna quit on us and go work for some other
mhm.
agency.
I don't know if we can do anything like clawbacks or.
No, you can't do a clawback, but it's it's like a good faith. We're just talking about,
Just outlining the expectation.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
We could also. Because some of our constables also serve in the schools, we could talk to the school and see if they want to share the costs. So it actually may be more relevant in that scenario.
That's why I wanted to talk to things, because I have questions about personnel, for which personnel are requested this.
Well, in the general sense, it's sort of. What we're saying, what you're saying is right, because, okay, so we pay for the 16 hours of training for them. For them, that qualifies them to work somewhere else. What makes them better? I think overall it makes them better, better candidates for us, but. And I have no objection to paying for that skill set. But I want to make sure that we're paying for it for us, where we're getting some benefit rather than some other
Training.
agency that in the course of their daily activities, they should be, like if it's somebody who's working for this school security company, I mean, I would imagine that they should pay for it, because that's more relevant generally to their daily,
It might make their billable rate higher
yeah.
for the company.
I'm not
Yeah,
opposed to it, I support training and employees who seek out training and bring it to us and wanna do it, I think that.
there's relevant, we have relevant concerns and relevant things that we wanna, make sure are expectations.
The time sensitivity is only for registration. It's not, we can table this and
I think so. I mean, I think I can share what the concerns are and that we feel like we need more discussion with the department.
Yeah, I just wanna look back and see what we've done. Cause I know we've done some stuff for employees or board members. That didn't have training in the budget for them, and we've done different procedures. To figure out like where we did like their mileage and their food instead of, and they did their actual or we did their registration, they did I know we did something else a couple years ago, so I wanna.
Yeah, that was another thing I was thinking is what if there was something like,
That's what, yeah, that's also why I just wanna,
but I do
I have a
think
question that I just don't wanna get in trouble asking about it.
I'm not sure. Yeah, I also have to look into like if we're sponsoring agencies, is there something that we're actually supposed to be responsible? So there's like that too, but. Okay, we'll
They will do some homework.
yeah. And
We did the selection. Restroom,
yes,
and the other one you wanna wait till after executive board. Right,
you have one after executive session.
right,
right. I mean, we could probably do that right now.
I don't know what it is.
What's that one? But,
Oh.
okay,
so motion to. Enter executive session at.
Oh, wait, do you want to do it now? Okay.
At 9:50 PM.
Second.
For
For matters.
purposes, for matters leading to the appointment of a particular person.
and matters leading to the discipline.
And matters leading to the discipline of particular persons.
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, motion carries.
Kate.
All right. Oh. Medical history, that's what I was supposed to do.